TitleMatchNetwork.com.
To another edition of the RF Video Shoot interview series, and it is a pleasure to be joined today by Nick Dinsmore, formerly Eugene. Welcome to the shoot interview.
Thank you very much.
First question we always ask everybody is, were you a fan of wrestling growing up?
Of course I was a fan. I started watching wrestling when I was, I don't know, maybe 8 years old. My first match I ever saw was Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff against Roddy Piper, shortly after WrestleMania 1, when Piper and Cowboy Bob Orton left Paul Orndorff in the ring, and he came out of Saturday Night's Main Event, House of Fire, beat Piper all the way back under the bleachers, into the back. Piper locked himself in the dressing room, and after that I was hooked.
How did you wind up getting into pro wrestling?
Well, actually, it's kind of two stories. First story is the Nightmare Danny Davis runs a wrestling school, it was in Jeffersonville, Indiana. It's now in Louisville, Kentucky. I actually went to high school with his daughter, and whenever we'd have like pep rallies and stuff, I played football, and they'd always say, he wants to be a professional wrestler, and she approached me one day and said, my dad teaches a wrestling school, and so when I was 18, I went and watched one of the little shows they had at the school, and I spoke with him, but I was going to play an all-star football game over the summer, so I wanted to wait till after that. But shortly after that, Yoshi Kwan ran a little spot show in Clarksville, Indiana, and I saw on the flyer where if you paid $25, you could have your own wrestling match. So we were seniors in high school. A friend of mine named Scott Schickert, he and I went and we had a big wrestling match, and beforehand I said, well, I don't know who's supposed to win, who's supposed to lose, so we'll wrestle for a little bit, we'll roll out of the ring, and then we'll get counted out. And he had a brother named Russell Schickert. Russell was his manager. He was Russell the Love Muscle. So we're wrestling, probably the worst match. The crowd made no response. It was just god awful. We had no idea how to do pro wrestling. We rolled out of the ring. We're punching each other on the floor. Referee, 7, 8. Scott rolls back in the ring. Russell grabs my leg, 9, 10. First match ever. Got double crossed and lost. But shortly after that, 1996, I signed up for the Danny Davis School of Pro Wrestling and had my first match in September of '96 against handsome Jason Lee.
Wow. What do you remember at your first match?
I was nervous as could be. I didn't have any wrestling boots, any wrestling tights. I was an amateur wrestler in high school, so I had my little amateur wrestling knee pads and singlet. And my family's from Louisville, so they all came out for the show. And the building probably held 150, maybe 180 people. I think 60 of them were there to see me. But Jason Lee and I became pretty good friends, so he took care of me in the first match. And it was exciting.
Cool. What was the hardest thing about training, either mentally or physically?
Trailer park trash would chop the shit out of me. My chest would be black and blue and bleeding. And other than that, like I said, I was an amateur wrestler in high school and played football. So the physical part, I was, I could hang in there. It was just getting used to the different subculture that's in a wrestling locker room, all the different things that go on, and the way people act, and the different characters in pro wrestling.
Yeah. Now, when you got into it, did you go into it thinking that this was going to be something you wanted to do for the rest of your life, or was it just the fan in you wanted to do it, try it?
No, I had no idea. There was a wrestling school in my hometown, and I thought, it must be my destiny that I at least have to try this.
Yeah.
I'd always wanted to wrestle for WWE or WCW at the time, whoever, but also, USWA was the Memphis territory. It would come through Louisville every Tuesday night. Louisville Garden, see you there, brother. Every Tuesday night. I aspired to be there, but I never really thought that I would make it. I didn't know if I would or if I wouldn't, but I just wanted to try it.
Yeah.
And in 1996, I started wrestling at the school. I remember it was April 1st, 1997. Danny called me and said they need somebody at the Gardens for USWA. Somebody didn't show up. I packed up my stuff. I rushed over there. I got there right at bell time. Dean Hill was the announcer. Dean Hill goes, April Fools.
Wow.
My heart just sank. He goes, no, I'm just kidding. You're on second. The bad news is you're on against a 400-pound guy. It was Tank from the Truth Commission.
Oh, jeez.
He took care of me that night. And so that was my first match for USWA. And shortly thereafter, I started doing TV for USWA before they closed up. So, but I didn't have any. I wanted to be in WWE, but I didn't really, I didn't think I would make it.
Yeah.
But it just seemed like things just kept happening, and I kept pursuing it. I didn't give up. I did USWA. I wrestled for Music City Wrestling that was ran by Burt Prentice for a short time. I did the first Brian Pillman Memorial Show. It's where I met Terry Taylor. Shortly after, Terry Taylor called me and asked me to do a couple of shots for WCW. It's like things were just happening and happening. And when Terry Taylor ended up in WWE, he's the one who hired me for my developmental contract.
Oh, wow.
It's just like the good things just kept happening and happening. So that's just, I didn't really have I wanted to be WWE, but I don't know. It just happened.
Yeah. You have any good Burt Prentice stories?
Bert's a really nice guy. No, he's taking care of me. He's taking me really well. We would go down on we would do OVW TV on Wednesday nights. We would go down and do I think Nashville TV at the Nashville Fairgrounds. I think on Thursday or Friday. I think it was on Friday. Go back home and then we'd come back and do house shows on Saturday and Sunday in Nashville. And at the time I was going to college, University of Indiana, and I was also working a regular job. So it's like I was only home on Monday nights because Danny Davis had a house show on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be in Nashville probably, I think it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, wrestled Danny's Wednesday and Sunday. Tuesday night was training, and Monday night was about the only night that I had home. But I was just loving it. I was getting to wrestle. I was getting paid to wrestle. So trying to make it, going to school. And then at least my worries was actually working a real job, making cabinets. But no, Bert was real good to me. Funny story was he had a music guy by the name of Jim Mounts, and Jim would just play random music before the show started. And one song he played was the Divinyl song, "When I Think About You, I Touch Myself."
Mm-hmm.
So Bert was sitting in the locker room, going over finishes and whatnot. All of a sudden he grabs the microphone that went out of the crowd. "Jim, Nick Dinsmore wants you to play that song one more time." The whole crowd, "When I Think About You, I Touch Myself." Actually, I just worked for Bert last weekend in Springfield, Tennessee.
Wow.
Yeah. He's still promoting. He's still doing well.
Wow. Good deal. Now, you briefly mentioned, you said you got into WCW through Terry Taylor?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, I worked the very first Brian Pillman Memorial Show where I wrestled Trailer Park Trash. And I remember Terry Taylor came up to me after the match and said, "Kid, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm making cabinets and trying to, get myself through school." And probably a month later, 2 months later, he called OVW, the Danny Davis School, and requested that I show up at, I think the first one was like maybe Terre Haute, Indiana, and then Peoria, Illinois. And I rode up with Bull Payne because he had gotten booked too, and I was so nervous. And I remember I didn't know anybody. It's like I did a Saturday night, and then I think Thunder might have been taped on a Wednesday night or something. I can't really remember. And it was like, all the WCW guys knew one another, and then the power plant guys that came up, they all knew one another, and Bull Payne knew some of the guys just from being around. There I am, kind of sitting off by myself. And I remember I was a huge fan of Dean Malenko.
Yeah.
And Dean's walking down the hall, and I'm all excited. I walk up, "Mr. Malenko, how you doing?" He just looks at me, didn't shake my hand, turned and walked off, and my heart just sank.
Wow.
Oh, but then later find out Dean's just kind of like that. He's super nice now. He's cool.
Yeah. Now, did you actually have a deal with WCW, or were you just getting booked?
No,
on spare
I was
dates?
just getting just nightly deals. And the funny thing is when Terry Taylor Terry Taylor was the one that was calling me in. And I think I did 13, maybe 15, couple Nitros, couple Thunders, mostly Saturday nights. But when he got let go, I didn't receive any more phone calls. So I thought, well, great, there goes my shot. But later on down the line, I'd seen guys like Shane Helms, Lash LaRue, and they were all like, "Why'd you quit coming? You were still booked." So apparently, I was still booked, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
And I just, it's sometimes I wonder what it would have been like if I would have stayed working for him when like the new blood kind of era came in, and if I would have got in there, and then when the WWE buyout, if I would have gotten in that way. But maybe it wasn't supposed to happen that way.
Yeah. Now, when you were there with all those veterans around, did any of the veterans give you advice or mentor you in any way?
No, I was probably pretty shy because I didn't know anybody, and I would go out and have my match, but nobody was ever rude to me or mean to me. Everybody was really nice to me. And one thing I do remember, I had a match with Ernest the Cat Miller on Thunder, and I think I hit him with a German suplex. And back then, before my knees gave out, I could do a half-assed good German suplex. And Goldberg was was speaking with Ernest the Cat Miller, telling him, you did this good, the kick looked good, and it should have looked good. He kicked the shit out of me. But anyway, the kicks looked good, and he turned to me and goes, that German suplex looked good. And it was kind of like, Goldberg told me something, But and another guy that I met there was Jericho.
Okay.
And he for some reason, he just kind of, started talking to me. And then when I did a couple of dark matches, and then when I eventually got called up for WWE, he would talk to me there. So I always looked up to Jericho because he was, I don't know, just for some reason, I was always entertained by him. I loved his wrestling, and he was nice to me. So.
Yeah. Now you wrestled Scott Steiner there too. What do you remember about that match?
It was Lenny Lane and I remember it was either Rochester, New York, or Boston. I think it was Rochester. And it was it's when WCW was doing 3 hours, and it started at 8 o'clock, and it was 5 till 8, and they still didn't have a card up of who was wrestling who that night. And so I figured I was off, but then Lenny came up and said, we're wrestling. So, Lenny, you and I are wrestling? That's great. He goes, no, they wouldn't put us on Nitro. It's you and I against Steiner or something. Oh my gosh, I never spoke to Steiner.
Mm.
I was very intimidated by him. And he comes up, he goes, I'm going to throw you in the rail, I'm going to throw you in the steps, and I'm going to powerbomb you on top of him. I said, okay, sounds great, sir. When we got out there, he didn't hurt me at all. He took care of me.
Wow.
But then he did is when he's doing the Steiner recliner, the camel clutch, and he had Lenny down, had me on top of Lenny, he put both of us in it. And I don't know if it's an accident or what, I'm assuming it is, but he hooked Lenny right there. And you see on the tape, Lenny's like, and then out. He just choked him straight out.
Wow.
And I don't think it was intentional because he could have hurt him way worse than that. I mean,
yeah.
It was kind of tough because we were both sandwiched together and he tried to reach up and pull us up. But that's the thing I remember most about that match is he hooked Lenny and Lenny's and he was out.
And you mentioned that you got into the WWE through Terry Taylor?
Yeah, I didn't really speak with Terry, but that's Jim Cornette at the time was the matchmaker of OVW, and then he told me that Terry was the one working in the office that suggested that I get a developmental deal, and that was November of 1999. Flash Flanagan and I were out of all the OVW guys that were training there, Danny Davis got the developmental deal for OVW. I'm pretty sure it was midsummer of '99. So they started sending guys there to be trained, and I remember I think Rico Constantino was one of the first ones. Russ McCullough, Stefan Gamblin, and so all of us just kind of assumed that WWE was sending guys here and we'd wrestle with them. We didn't really assume that any of us would ever get hired. It was just kind of I don't know. And then it came to Flash Flanagan and I said, we're gonna hire you on. It was weird because there was a group of about 6 or 8 of us, maybe 10 from OVW, and all of a sudden 2 of us got hired and the rest didn't.
Mm.
So Flash and I could talk to one another, but we didn't tell anybody else for the longest time. And it was kind of, about the time, none of us really got on the internet, so it wasn't stooged off that way. But, Danny didn't tell anybody else, Cornette didn't tell anybody else, Flash and I didn't. So for the longest time, it was kind of it was a secret, but we were happy, but it was at the same time, we didn't want to tell our friends because, they didn't get hired. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of a weird situation.
Wow. For you, somebody that grew up a wrestling fan, what was it like the first time you signed your first WWE contract?
The first time I signed a WWE contract, it was like I said, it was just another step. It was like I finally made it. But the time that was more exciting, but not nearly as paid as much money, was the first time that I worked for Jerry Lawler in USWA.
Okay.
I went down, Trailer Park Trash and I rode down, and we stayed at the Admiral Bimbo. This is where a lot of the guys used to stay. It was $25 a night. I think I was 20 years old. I'd gone to a Catholic high school my whole life. I'd never experienced anything, out of the ordinary. So Trailer Park Trash brings me in there. I think he drank about 6 beers from Louisville to Nashville, and then 6 beers from Nashville to Memphis, and he was driving. We get to the Admiral Bimbo. I swear, I walk in. It was $25 a night, the worst hotel I've ever been in my life.
Wow.
There were crack whores outside, there were prostitutes, there were pimps out there, and I was just I wouldn't even get under the covers. I just put all my clothes on and laid on top of the bed, freaking out. So Trash decides he's going to go to the boat and go gambling. So he leaves me there.
Oh.
And I'm just scared to death, and I couldn't sleep all night. There's a lamp. I remember sitting on the desk. Used women's underwear were on top of it. Not like a cute little pair. I mean, it's like who shot that penguin type. The thing was huge.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god. And there was a lamp that was had a cord that was plugged into the bathroom socket that you had to use for the bathroom. And the cord was all frayed. And the Trash shows up 6 in the morning, stumbling around. Long story short, we make it to TV. First time I've ever been on Memphis TV. I don't even remember how I wrestled now, but then I got a check from Jerry Lawler, signed by Jerry Lawler, $25.
Wow.
I was so excited. I didn't want to cash it, but then I didn't have any gas left, didn't have any money left. It was a Saturday, no banks would cash it. Trailer Park Trash, it took us 12 hours to get back from Memphis to Louisville, which is about a 6.5-hour drive. We had 4 hours traffic between Memphis to Nashville, and about 4 hours from Nashville to Louisville. But I had my check from Jerry Lawler, so that was probably more exciting than actually signing my first WWE contract, although the WWE contract paid just a bit more than the $25 Jerry Lawler paid me.
Awesome. Now, what do you remember about your first few weeks in OVW?
The few weeks training?
When you first came there, you said there was like a bunch of guys.
Danny would have class about 3 times a week, I think, and then he was slowly building a territory around Louisville, Southern Indiana. The school was actually in Jeffersonville, Indiana, and they would have shows every Sunday night, and then he would have shows throughout the area. One of them was on a Monday night. I remember that was at this. It was like an old Kmart, and it was like the first time I ever met Tracy Smothers, and then we would come in and practice, and I remember watching at these shows, watching the Hustler Rip Rogers, who wrestled there for Danny. Rip's from Seymour, and Rip was just so mean and just so brutal, and I was so afraid of him. But I remember watching, I'd watch the guys that because you had to have, you had to wrestle for so long before Danny let you wrestle on the shows. I remember, I was still in practice, but I would do security at the shows at the Kmart. And I'd watch the guys that I was in class with, and I'm like, okay, we've done this in class, so I understand this. But then I'd watch Rip wrestle, and it was totally different, and he scared me to death. I'm like, there's something different. This guy's real. This guy's matches are real. And just everybody else in the card would do everything that I knew how to do. Okay, I've done this in practice. I can do this. And then Rip would get in there and just beat people up, and it was so different. But then once I finally started wrestling Rip, I really understood that he was a tremendous wrestler, and I have utmost respect for Rip, and he's actually still mentors me today.
Wow. What do you remember? Your thoughts on Jim Cornette?
Rip and Danny had drilled it in our head Cornette was this mean promoter, and he was going to come in and we better act right, or he was just going to tear us apart. And I talked about Handsome Jason Lee, right? Yeah. Handsome Jason Lee would do this thing where TV monitors over here and the seats, and we'd all have to kind of turn to look at the TV, and he'd sneak up behind people when he'd pull his shorts down and he'd fart right in your face. So it was like the big joke, he called it basing people. So he'd do it to everybody, right? So the first day Cornette shows up, we're all just on pins and needles, and we're all scared to death. Well, there's Vito Andretti, who was one half of the Andretti Express, Vito and Guido Andretti, and then Jerome Crony, who wore a mask, he was the American Eagle. They're both sitting there, and they're watching the monitor, so Jason sneaks up, pulls his pants down, and he goes to fart. A stream of mud comes right all over American Eagle's face, all over Vito's arm, and the Eagle is like from Hazard, Kentucky, because he shit on me! He shit on me! And Jason's like, freaking, no, Cornette's going to hear us! Cornette's going to hear us! But once we got to know Cornette, he's the most fun-loving guy, but he's so passionate about wrestling. So it's I can understand when he gets upset about wrestling, it's just for a good cause. He's so passionate and he wants things to be a certain way, but away from wrestling, he's a great guy that just, he might be a little stuck in 1984 and he still wears Zubas, but I really like Cornette. I remember one time when I talked about the core group of guys in OVW, it was like Doug Basham, Danny Basham, who then was the Damager, Rob Conway, myself, Jason Lee, Derek King, and we were always kind of in the main event doing TV because you have to hit kind of a time cue there. And I remember the first time that they took us out of that main event slot, they put John Cena and Randy Orton in the main event. So all of us are sitting back there going, let's see if these guys can hit the time cues. They went 4 minutes over. We didn't have a live show, but we taped live to tape. Sure. So Cornette got so mad, and Orton knew he screwed up. So Orton just bailed. He got out, and Cena comes back, taking his tape off, and did a pretty good job there. Cornette takes a baseball bat, and in this old building we were in, there was a side where there was glass, and he's beating the glass. God, you son of a! You went 4 minutes, so I'm gonna have to edit that. And Cena didn't understand what's going on, and finally figured out, well, I guess I need to hit a time cue here. And then Cornette goes off and. Yeah. This went on, Cornette went on tired for maybe 5 or 6 minutes, and he calmed down. He's like, okay, here's what you did wrong. You needed to go home here, blah, 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 blah. But to Cena's credit, that was the only time he's gone over on any TV show. So, people can say that Cornette rants and raves, but if you listen right, you get the point, you learn from it.
Yeah. Now, there are some guys, I know Dave Batista has been pretty outspoken, and he said that he learned nothing in OVW from Cornette. What are your thoughts when people say that?
Oh, Batista. Batista was used differently in OVW than he's used now. He was used more like a bodyguard, because he was so larger than life than anybody there. A lot of us were just local guys, I was Jeffersonville's own, a hometown boy. Rob Conway was from New Albany. Danny Basham was from Seymour. Doug Basham was from Henryville. And all of a sudden there's this humongous guy, with these huge muscles, and Cornette built him, and if, I don't know if you've ever seen the show, but there was a valet named Sin on the show, and she was like this devil worshiper, and she conjured him and actually had Leviathan Batista come out of the Ohio River, and it was great, because it's all in black and white. So Batista was used differently, but to say he didn't learn anything, that offends me a little bit, because I would work with Batista one-on-one and try to help him. I wrestled him a handful of times and try to make him better. Now, I think he learned a lot more once he got up there, because he actually was told what they wanted him to do. But when he was in OVW, I don't think he was given too much. I don't think, and that's my opinion, I don't think he was given too much direction on how they were going to use him when he got up to WWE. So Cornette kind of had free reign to make this monster Leviathan come out of the Ohio River, and it was great. People were, Leviathan was a heel, but he was starting to get over as a babyface, and people were cheering for him, and they wanted to see him come out there and kill somebody. But once he got up there, it was like a total different direction. And then they I think WWE kind of focused in more and said, no, Dave, we want you to do this, we want you to be like this. So for what he is now, he probably did learn more once he got up to WWE, working with Fit and working with Arn Anderson and the guys like that. But to say he learned nothing in OVW, I'm gonna have to say he was misquoted, or I hope that he really doesn't mean that, because I was one of the ones that worked with him, and if he really means it, that would offend me.
You said something I was going to ask you a little later in the interview, but since you touched on it, in OVW, do you think that they had you prepared for what they wanted and maybe the style difference in the WWE when you got up there, or was there a big adjustment period?
I was in OVW from 1996 until 2004. When I was there, Jim Cornette was still there, Rip Rogers was there, Danny Davis was there. So the OVW that I learned from is not the exact same OVW that is today.
Right.
So, but anyway, the OVW that I came from, everybody that came through, that got called up, I don't know if they were all prepared, because it takes a certain amount of time to be over prepared to do anything.
Yeah.
I wrestled there for 6 years, and in the same building twice a week, around the territory, and Rip would sit in the back with a Kindle stick, and if we screwed up, he would come out and beat us.
Wow.
And you made that mistake one time and one time only. So I feel personally that I was over prepared for anything. That's, 'cause when I came to WWE, they gave me a little bit, and I feel like I did well. They gave me a little more, I did even better, and they kept giving and kept giving and kept giving until I screwed it up myself. But for me personally, I feel like I was over prepared for, because I made pretty much every mistake that there was to make in OVW, and that was the place to make it. So therefore, when I came to WWE, I wouldn't make those mistakes. Guys that were there for just 6-8 months, they might not have had the luxury of having 6 years. A lot of people would always say, like, oh, you were down there that long? How could you stand it? How could you stand to be down there? But I was in my hometown, sleeping in my own bed every night, doing something that I loved, and it never occurred to me that, everybody talked to me like it was a punishment, instead of, I was living a dream, and that's what I was doing.
Yeah. Do you think, in hindsight, that Cornette got a raw deal, so to speak, from the WWE, the way things went down?
No, because Cornette is great for this business, for teaching guys Wrestling 101. Now, I wasn't there when whatever happened, and he, allegedly struck one of the students. So you can't have that in a public-owned company. You can't have that in a business that's run today. You just can't do it. So I think Jimmy was I don't know. I wasn't around him that much towards his end at OVW. I think he was just kind of burnt out and frustrated and just at the end of his rope. So I don't really think he was given a raw deal. I just think it was just his time, and he probably needed something new and something fresh. And I believe that's what he's got. And he seems to be doing well at what he's doing now.
Does it surprise you that he's working with Vince Russo after all the things he's said about Vince Russo?
I've only met Vince Russo one time. He was nice to me, and I had heard Cornette say, go on tirades about many people, but I always understood that was Jimmy's way of just, that was just how he was. So I never made an assumption about anybody on the way, Jimmy talked about him. So it's business, It's like you work anywhere. You don't necessarily have to like everybody you work with. You just have to work with them.
Yeah.
So I mean, as much as he might, dislike somebody, I think he can suck it up and work with them for the better of the business.
What do you remember about teaming with Rob Conway down there?
I had been wrestling about 8 months, maybe a year, training, and then Rob came in. Now Rob was he's about 4 years older than me. He was he went to New Albany High School. I went to a private Catholic high school called Providence High School. He was a pretty good basketball player, so he made a little name for himself in Southern Indiana playing basketball. And he started bodybuilding, so he'd gotten pretty big, and he wanted to come in and try wrestling. So automatically, it's just we were like very good athletes. So Danny paired us together, and immediately the fans just took to us in the little area there. And he and I've never had a partner that he and I knew what each other was thinking, and we gelled so well together. And on the opposite, in wrestling against him, I've never, had somebody that I've gelled with so well that I could do one thing and he would know where I'm going, and he would do one thing, I know where he's going. So he and I were probably the best two partners. Well, let me say it this way: he was probably the best partner that I've ever had, and I'm sad that we never got to wrestle as partners on WWE TV, because I feel like we could have done, I mean, maybe not been great, but done well and had a lot of fun at least.
What do you remember about Kenny Bolin?
Kenny the King Bolin, the Star Maker. There was a point there where I was dating this girl, and she and I broke up. I was living with her. I moved out, and my mom was like, "Nope, you got to be a man. You can't move back in here." So for about 2 weeks there, I was just scrambling to find somewhere to live. In essence, I was homeless. And Kenny was dating this girl that worked for Hostess, like the cream pies and the apple pies and anything. I guess that it has to only be on the shelf for a certain amount of date, and after that date, they have to take it off the shelf. So these would be like apple pies and ding dongs and ho hos and anything like that was just a couple days off the shelf. He would bring into OVW in this big box. So I'd get there early and I'd wait for Kenny to show up, and I'd grab the box and go lock in my truck. And that'd be the food that I'd have to eat all week because I didn't have a job. I wasn't wasn't making any money. Kenny is, oh my God, he's a shyster. He'll go into like Steak and Shake and say, I work at the, his eyes are like this, I work at the movie theater down there. I can give you X amount of movie theater passes to give me free food. So I give him free food, then he'll go around to the movie theater. I work for Steak and Shake. I can give you free food, give me some free movie passes. Apparently Kenny's never had a job since like 1973, and he's always driving a new car. I don't think he's ever paid for one, but Kenny's great. He's great comedy. I remember I was in a match one time. He pops up on the apron. I was supposed to go punch him. He must have moved because I wouldn't hit him.
Yeah.
I didn't have the shit out of him. He had a big black eyes, all like this. I like Kenny a lot. He still sends me emails that I don't reply to. But Kenny's a good guy.
What do you talked a little bit about it before. What are your memories of doing the Pillman Memorial shows that you did?
I just wrestled on the very first one.
Oh, okay.
And I went to the ones after, maybe the second or the third one. But the first one was I think it was the biggest show that I'd wrestled on. It was when Austin was there, And it's like the first time that I had seen, stars from WCW and stars from WWE on the same show. And I remember it was in this small gymnasium. It was ran by Les Thatcher.
Yeah.
And the fans were literally wrapped around the building waiting to get in. And I remember Sonny was there. It's like when she was with LOD.
Yeah.
And I just remember, just all these stars. I was just starstruck. I remember the first time I met Candido.
Okay.
His thighs were so big and he was all tan and lean. Jericho was there, and I was just in awe of everybody that was there. And I was the first match, and I was just, Foley was there. And I was just still a fan, I just guys I'd seen on TV, and all of a sudden I'm on a show with them. And it was just, it was awesome, the crowd, and it was kind of just one of those buildings that was smaller, and the crowd's all up on you, and as they get cheering more, it gets hotter in the ring, and you can just feel the vibration of the cheers, and it was amazing.
That's awesome. What you talked about him quite a bit already. What do you remember about the matches you have with Rip Rogers?
I'll be scared to death with Rip, but for some reason, he took a liking to me. I don't know if it's because I listened to him. You'd ask me about Conway. Conway was always kind of like, Rip Rogers is kind of like a Bobby Knight style coach. He'd yell at you and berate you and tell you the shits and tell you you're rotten. But then he comes to you and say, okay, now this is what you did wrong, and this is why you need to do it better. But I feel like he did that to me more than other people. I don't know if it's because I listened or if I understood what he said, but Conway would always get defensive and put up a wall and just, well, I'm not listening to him. I'm not tell me I'm the shits,
Yeah.
But I don't know. Rip would just, but he had me so scared. But then he made me laugh in the middle of a match. He'd stick his finger up my ass, stick his thumb up my ass. Like I said, if we'd screw up in a match, he'd come out with a kendo stick and, you stupid fuckers, you messed up, beat us. And then every once in a while he'd run out with a kendo stick and I'd be, oh God, what did I do wrong? I'm sorry. And then he'd just take it and shove it up my ass. Go, you're right. So I never knew, And then finally I started to understand that he was just ripping us the whole time. But he made me so much better. And just, he's the one that taught me how to work a crowd, work in the ring. Danny Davis would be in practice and teach us the moves and watch us on tape and critique us on tape. Rip was actually the one that would take me by the hand and say, okay, do this. No, don't do this yet. Now, do it now. And just really the one who taught me how to work.
Mm. So. Who did you ride with the most down there when you were in OVW?
Most of the shows in OVW were probably at most 2 hours away, so it was always different. I mean, we didn't have like a set riding partner like we did in WWE.
Yeah.
It was always different. Most of the time we would meet at the school at a certain time, and then Danny had a truck that would haul the ring, and I would just jump in with whoever I could.
Mm. Was it hard to make a living back then? I mean, it sounded like you were having a great time, but was it hard to actually pay the bills? And yeah.
These guys, I mean, that's the first thing when I walked into Danny's school. He goes, okay, I can teach you wrestling, but you're not going to make a dime here, for an OVW, and that was understood. A lot of the guys came in there and thought, thought they were entitled to making money because this was the wrestling business, and that's the first thing he told me, so I knew I wasn't going to make any money there, but I was getting an education. I was wrestling every night, getting better. I knew that, if I got good enough, that there was money to be made down the line, and I wasn't going to make it here. So, but, like I said, I was making cabinets, I was going to school.
It's almost like playing collegiate sports.
Yeah, exactly, I mean, I was doing it, but I was having a great time. I was having the time of my life. I mean, I would, some of the fans that would come, there'd be some of the young ladies that would come to the arena, and I'd have to, I'd go have to sweet talk them to buy me dinner that night, or come bring me groceries at the house, or come bring me laundry detergent. I had a roommate at the time when I first moved out and got an apartment. I had a roommate that had a real good job, so he was actually paying the rent, and then I would pay him back as I could, and I'd keep track of everything. But he'd be like, "Oh, I need some laundry detergent," so I'd call, "Hey, would you mind, maybe come over and bring me some laundry?" And he'd just be in amazement. There'd be a girl come over, bring some laundry detergent. She'd leave. Come over, bring me some grocery. Girl, come over, bring a bag full of groceries. She'd leave. Girl, come over, clean the apartment. She'd leave. So I wasn't making a living wrestling OVW, but I was having a good time.
Wow. Now, did you guys in OVW at the time? Did you get a lot of feedback from the WWE offices, like what they liked, what they didn't like, that kind of thing?
Sometimes. I think now they have agents come down once a week, once every 2 weeks. Then it was like a big deal when an agent would come down, and you'd always try to be on the top of your game and do the best you could. And I remember Dean Malenko would come down for a week, and he had practices every day with 4 people on Monday, 4 people on Tuesday, yada yada yada. And then we'd tape the practice and watch it back. So it was few and far between when we get feedback from the office. But as far as I know, like Danny and Cornette were sending reports up on how we're doing. And every now and then they would call and say, hey, we saw this on TV. You need to do this more. You need to do this less. But there wasn't, at least for when I say the guys in OVW, the clique that we had in OVW, there wasn't a lot of feedback. Now for the guys that WWE would bring in, the WWE guys, as we kind of referred to them, they might have gotten more feedback.
Right.
I don't know, because we would all work together, and there was no animosity between us, but it was kind of like, we were the originals, and they were the WWE guys.
Yeah.
So I don't know, they might have gotten more feedback than we did. I'm not really sure.
Were you guys, the OVW guys, were you guys a pretty tight bunch?
Oh, yeah. We'd have TV on Wednesday nights, and then afterwards there was a bar that would have like 50-cent Coors Light in a can.
Wow.
So we'd all go there, and we'd have 10, 15 guys there. And there was one wrestler by the name of Rod Steele. Real deal. Ain't got to tell you, you've been up and down the road, been wrestling for 15 years. Real deal. So, like you're at the bar, like 4 o'clock in the morning, the bar's starting to close down, the lights are coming up, there's like beer and spit and piss and everything all over the floor. He went outside and got himself this hot dog, right? Rod Steele's probably 6'5", big jacked up guy. Got the colored in with the mascara, beard and the spray on hair, and he's walking with the hot dog. He slips in the beer and all over himself. So we started all kicking the shit out of him on the floor, just having a good time. But that was the story of the Steel Man. If you know anybody in OVW, just ask them about the Steel Man. They'll have a few good stories.
Now, did it ever bother you, or maybe some of the other guys, when somebody would be in OVW, maybe not, a couple months or so, and they wouldn't put the work in, say you and Rob and some of the other guys, and they would get called up just because of their physique or whatever? Is it frustrating?
Me personally, it never offended me. I didn't take it personally, because I was, like I said, I was wrestling for a living at that time. I was living at home. I was sleeping in my own bed every night. I was a top guy in OVW. I was living a dream. I was becoming a little local celebrity. Yeah. And, I knew personally that I was probably better than the guys who were getting called up, but for some reason it didn't bother me. Now, there came a point when Doug Basham, Danny Basham went up, Conway went up. We had moved from the Jeffersonville building to the OVW Davis Arena that's in Louisville, Kentucky now, and it was a new crop of guys that I didn't know that well, and they were all kind of looking at me like Rip Rogers was the trainer at the time, but I would help him. So they all kind of turned their attention as for me being a part of the group to me being almost a trainer. So all of a sudden it was just a different, a different role that I was in. And I had no intentions of quitting, because I was making decent money, and like I said, I was living at home. But I told, I just want to, a lot of the guys that would complain and bitch and complain, they would either get called up or they would get accommodated to more than the guys like myself who would just sit back and be a trooper. So I told Doug Basham, I said, Doug, I think I'm going to quit and try to go to Japan or see what else is out there. So I think, Doug had told Dean had told John Laurinaitis. Next thing I know, I'm sitting in a meeting with Vince.
Wow.
Just like nervous as hell, wiping my palms, scared to death. And Vince had said, wow. He sat down right in front of me, just nice as can be, asked me about my mom, asked me, who I enjoyed watching wrestling. Said, I want to get back to character-based wrestling. So a good friend of mine has a son that's a son that has autism, and he just kind of thrown an idea, not of a wrestler with autism, but a wrestler who can't do much, can't put a square peg in a square hole, can't tie his shoes. But once he gets in the ring, he can do what he sees on TV. So I didn't want to be a wrestler with autism, but I knew it would be different. It's something that I felt like I could pull off. Sitting in a meeting with Mr. McMahon, and he said, I want to get back to character-based wrestling. And going into this meeting, I had no idea what I was going to say, but the minute he said that, I just spit out this idea. Sat there, I said, well, sounds good. All of a sudden, Steve Austin walks in the office. And Steve Austin knew Danny Davis from, I think, wrestling in Global.
Okay,
Wrestling.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
He walks in, Steve looks at me and goes, who trained you? I said, Danny Davis, sir. He goes, well, I can tell you're probably one of the best. So after that, Vince goes, okay, well, let's do it. And then that was it.
Wow.
So, if I wouldn't have spoke up, I might have been fired earlier, or,
Yeah.
I might never have made it to TV, but, that's kind of how that happened.
Huh. And what are your memories of when you started getting called up to do the shotgun shows?
I didn't do any shotgun shows.
You didn't do any shotgun shows?
I did. Well, we got called up to do dark matches, and I remember the first time we got called up. It was the night after Owen died.
Wow.
It was in St. Louis, and there was it was me, Trailer Park Trash, Doug Basham, Conway, Jason Lee, Danny Basham, the Damager, and Real Deal, Rod Steele. Rented a minivan. We drive up to St. Louis, and we didn't know what to expect. And we dress up, and we walk in there, and cameras are right there as we're walking in. Big tragedy. Owen Hart died. What are your thoughts? I said, I'm not a wrestler. I'm just here with catering. Walked right on by. They walk up to Conway. Are you a wrestler? Yeah, I'm a wrestler. Yeah, I am. And he goes on to cut, a 30-second promo for the local news, which I never would have done, but he actually pulled it off pretty well.
Yeah.
We get there and do a dark match, and I wrestled Kurt Angle before he started on TV.
Oh, wow.
And but the funny thing was once we were finished, they were like, okay, well, because of Owen passing away and the way the show was structured, it was a tribute show, and the guys that they needed us to be druids for the Undertaker, but they pushed that back until the next night on SmackDown. They said, well, we need you tomorrow night in Moline, but we only need 4 of you. So half of us, we all rode together, and half the guys had to get back home to work the next morning. So we drove from Louisville to St. Louis. We had to turn around and drive all the way back to Louisville, drop 4 guys off, turn around and drive all the way back to Moline, which is a hell of a drive. Yeah. But the funny thing was, Trailer Park Trash is sitting up front. We're in a minivan, and I'm driving, and he's drinking his beers, and all of a sudden he goes, I gotta pee, right? Rick Rogers always taught me, you never stop and pee. You always pee in the bottle. Takes time off the trip. So I said, no, Trash, we're not stopping. We're not stopping. I've got to pee. He's all drunk. I said, no, you got to pee in a bottle. So he gets on his knees in the seat, like with his back towards the windshield and his stomach towards the seat, and takes his shirt off for some reason. He pulls his pants down. He's got like a big gulp cup, right? And he's peeing in the cup there. So of course I turn the light on at night, and we're passing all these families, and there's Trailer Park Trash with his tattoos all over him, looking, peeing in the cup like this, and he sets it in the little cup holster there, and puts his clothes back on. Everybody else is kind of half asleep in the back, and he rolls down the window. He goes to throw it out. It all came back in, all over him, all over me, all over everybody. I hear everybody go, what the fuck was that? And he's just sitting there covered in piss. God damn it! So the first thing I do is pull off and pee at the next exit. But that was the first trip. That was the first trip to work for WWE.
Wow. It sounds like it made life a lot easier, because it sounds like you were, working with your friends and your buddies, every day, every weekend, all these trips and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was we were a tight family, we were a clique, and the sad things were like a real good friend of mine, Jason Lee, when he finally gave it up, I guess, and he didn't make it, and I feel partially responsible for that. It was around Christmas, I think, and the Jason Lee and Derek King were the Suicide Blondes, and they were the tag team champions, and they had gone week after week where tag teams had just whipped their ass, and then they cheated to win. Next tag team, Brock and Shelton whipped their ass, they cheated to win. Next tag team, and finally they're up against us, and in OVW we kept things straight and legit, and a chair shot was a knockout. He didn't get up after it, and this was like the first time. They come up, whack, they hit Conway with the chair. 1-2, he kicked out. The place erupted, and we ended up winning. Well, Jason had worked a real job. Conway and I and Derek had kind of sat through the day and talked out some things that we wanted to do in the match. But I didn't think about it because Derek and Jason were they were great, like bumbling fucking, heels that would bump into each other. But they had some incredible spots where intricate stuff where they would end up ramming, and Jason he still has a great mind for the business. But in that match, we didn't get to showcase them. We're very selfish, and we showcased ourselves. And Jason was just so angry. And I remember in the match, we got cut like a minute or two, and they said, go home. And just in the middle of the match, and John Laurinaitis was there. So it's like he wanted to impress the guy that could give him a job. And I remember he just stood there, and he just lost all emotion. He goes up, he misses a moonsault, didn't sell it, got up, tagged out, and just he gave it up right there.
Wow.
So I mean, I feel real bad, but we were all a family, and I still talk to him today. But we were still tight, and it was fun working for OVW because we were, just a clique, and we had a good time.
Was when you would go up for the WWE shows, was it kind of the same deal as WCW, where you kind of just kept to yourself up there, or the clique your OVW clique kind of kept to yourself, or were you guys a little more accepted in that locker room?
After a point in time when so many guys had come to Louisville and eventually got called up, first we knew 5 or 6 guys that were called up, and then we knew 10 guys. Then, by the end of it, we knew half the locker room.
Yeah.
So and they they had all come to OVW and taken some things from me and learned a couple things from me. So it's like we were kind of like on a mutual level, and it would be weird, like riding with Cena, and he would ask me what I thought of his match.
Yeah.
Champion of the world, and he's asking me, what I thought of his match, and I would tell him. But it was he and I rode together quite a bit, and it was just I felt honored that he would even confide in me and ask me, what I thought of his match when he's having main event, 5-star matches, selling out arenas, and he's asking the goddamn guys on first match playing a gimmick, what I thought. But towards the end, it's like we were accepted just because we knew everybody.
Yeah. Did you, when you were up there, did you get any feedback from the agents, like you might want to try this a little different, or anything like that?
Do you mean when I would do dark matches?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you would have an agent for your match, and they would give you feedback. And a funny story, I wrestled Tommy Dreamer. I think it was for Heat, possibly Velocity, one of the two. And William Regal was my agent. It was after his heart surgery or ordeal or whatever it was. He had just gotten back into wrestling, and I don't think he knew if he was going to be able to wrestle or not, so he just took an agent role. And I don't think he cared to be an agent, but he was an agent for the match. And I always looked up to Regal. He tagged with Rip Rogers in Germany and maybe other parts of Europe. But Rip had always talked about how Rip would never put over anybody. He put over Fit, and he put over Regal and just a few other guys. And to have him as my agent, I looked up to him.
Yeah.
It turns out I was partnered with him, and now he's a very good friend of mine. So it's weird how things work out.
Wow. What are your memories of the match you had with Chris Benoit in OVW?
That was the match that made me a star in Louisville. I mean, at the time, Chris Benoit was one of the top 5 in the world. I mean, it was shortly after, I think, the Saturn and Malenko and Eddie and him had jumped to WWE. And I remember someone came up to me because in OVW we would just run small little gymnasiums and we'd run the OVW school, but we would bring out the Louisville Gardens and run like our WrestleManias, and we have about 2 a year. And the first one did pretty good, and then this one, I remember WCW ran the Louisville Gardens maybe a month before. I think they had 2,000 or 3,000 people. I think it held like 6,500. We sold it out. I mean, I can't say OVW did because we had Stone Cold Steve Austin there, but I remember someone came and said, "Yeah, I think you're wrestling Benoit on that one," and I was scared to death. I was like, "Oh my God, I can't wrestle with him. I mean, he's fucking the best in the world. Like, I can't do it." And it was just it was weird because he came in and I'd seen enough of his matches to know everything that he could do, and I could pretty much do everything, try to emulate it, everything that he did. And so we just went out there and wrestled for 20, 25 minutes, and I don't know. I don't know if it was a good match or a bad match because we just wrestled, but people talk about it like it was, it was the best match I ever had as Nick Dinsmore.
Yeah.
Which, makes me feel great, but I mean, at the whole time I was out there, I was nervous, and but I remember he started chopping me. I got started getting mad, but I started counting them. I said, okay, well, I think he gave me 6. And then I put him on the top rope, and he said, "Get on me." And I chopped him as hard as I could, 6 straight times, just to give him all back to him.
Yeah.
He didn't say a word. I mean, he trusted me enough to let me superplex him off the top rope.
Wow.
And just, Yeah, and just the match with Benoit, I mean, it made me a star in Louisville because Cornette was great with like OVW TV because he would replay that and put it, and the thing with the whole angle was I was in an angle with Rico Constantino. He was he was a tremendous heel. It wasn't the Adrian Street.
All right, Benoit.
So the Benoit match at the time in OVW. I was in an angle with Rico, and it wasn't the Adrian Street Rico. He was more like he was the role model Rico Constantino, which was more like a Kurt Angle when Angle was a heel, but comedy when he was trying to give out condoms to everybody. And then the comedy stuff. Rico was great at it. He would always go shoosh, and the crowd would get so mad. But I came on TV and I said I'm wrestling Chris Benoit. If I win this match, I debut on Monday Night Raw. So Benoit and I had gone, I think, 20 minutes, maybe 25. Rico comes out, boom, caused me to get DQ'd, so I lost.
Right.
And so then I went on with Rico. But the way Cornette had written the TV is he would constantly replay. I mean, this guy went toe-to-toe with Benoit for 25 minutes. He should be in the WWE today. And it really impressed upon the people. This is a hometown boy. This is one of your own.
Wow.
He should be in the WWE. He should be a star, but it's Rico's fault that he's not there. And it just made the people get around me so much more. And about that time, I had taken a job as a substitute teacher at the high school I went to. So, during school, of course, I would plug the Wednesday night TV tapings, and the kids would come to the show. So they were so much louder and so much more supportive, and that would come across on TV too. You'd have 40 or 50 high school kids there just going insane, yelling and screaming. Yeah. And then we ended up running a show at my high school where all the kids came to the TV taping, and Conway cheated and beat me for the OVW heavyweight title, and we went into my high school and had like 500 kids there. And I remember Rip Rogers had an arm wrestling match against my football coach, Gene Sartini. Now Rip played football for Seymour in 1973, and Gene Sartini was the coach of Providence then, so he played against him. So Rip had this big spiel about how it was because of Gene Sartini that he didn't play for Notre Dame High School. He broke his right arm because Gene Sartini did it. It was Gene Sartini's fault, and I'm gonna arm wrestle him. So then Coach Sartini comes out and goes, "I'm gonna arm wrestle you, but I want to do it left-handed." And Rip, no, that's the arm I broke. You're doing this to me, and just. Rip went on about a 15-minute tirade. The entire student assembly turned their back on Rip, and the damage of Danny Bash was out there in Seymour shoulder pads and jersey, and then arm wrestling match. And Rip puts over them 70-year-old football coach. But I ended up wrestling Conway that night at the high school that I went to, at the place that I was substitute teaching for, and won the OVW heavyweight title. Yay! But those were just the things that the Cornette could take and put it on our little TV show that we had, and just make me a star in Louisville and in Kentuckiana, and
That's brilliant. That's brilliant booking, real brilliant. What do you remember about your match with Al Snow?
I think there was like a series of matches that Cornette would bring in people to help build me. And the match I had with Al, I mean, there's things that I did in that match that I'll still do today, just little intricate things, but I don't know how to put it into words, but that was probably my favorite match that I had, and even above the Benoit match that we had in the Louisville Gardens, because it was a huge crowd, and Al just knew how to entertain the people, and Teddy Long was our referee, and just the things that we did, we do comedy spots, and then had Al was the heel, and he's beating me up, and he pushes Teddy Long. He's beating me up, and he pushes Teddy Long. Beat me up, he goes to push Teddy Long. Teddy ducks, ends up body slamming him. And just the place coming unglued, and just stuff like that isn't done today, that you don't see. That and Al just knew how to entertain the crowd and just work with somebody who was green, who he literally had to take by the hand and say, okay, now do this, and then we had a very good match. It's one of my favorite matches.
That's awesome. Did you ever work directly with or for Les Thatcher at all, or?
Oh yeah. I wrestled for the HWA for Les. Okay. The Pillman show. I'm not sure if that was an HWA match, but that was for Les. And then I went down and I wrestled Ray Steele.
Oh, okay.
I guess it was the third Pillman show where I wrestled him. Now, Doug Basham and I had a match at the Louisville Gardens. It was he wore a mask at the time. He called himself the Machine, and this is probably my favorite angle that I've been involved in. Doug Basham is Danny Davis's nephew.
Huh.
So Cornette would have like some of the other heels come out and say, you know, he's coming back, and just plug like little things, and nobody really knew why. So then Doug came out under the mask, and Doug had been gone for probably 4 or 5 years. Do you remember when Undertaker had the Creatures of the Night that was
Sure.
front row? One of them was Doug.
Really?
And he started to break in. He was a tremendous wrestler. He started to break in. He started to get some bookings by WWE. And Doug decided, I want to get married. I want to have a real job. I don't want to wrestle anymore. He up and quit. And he got a job before and got married. He ended up getting divorced. And then we got a developmental territory. And Doug decides, well, maybe I can do this now. Maybe it is a little, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So he comes back under the mask, and he and I started a program. But the whole deal was he was Danny Davis's nephew, which everybody knew, and he owned a quarter of the quarter of OVW. He owned a quarter of it. So we ended up having a match first to take off his mask, and I feel like we had a really good match. Watching it back now, it isn't as good as I remember, but it's it was fun. So Race came up and watched this match between Doug and I, and he wanted to have a similar match at the third Pillman show. So I tried to go up there and try to do it, but it just, I don't know. I didn't read the internet much at the time, but he said that the internet just said it was the worst match on the card. It was the fucking shits. It sucked, and I don't know. I ended up winning the HWA title that night, but then again, compared to the other matches on the card, I mean, there was all WWE and WCW stars on the card, so I really couldn't compare to that. But I worked for less than HWA, and then maybe a month later, I went back and dropped the title back to Race. I don't remember exactly where it was. And then Les was actually real good to me too. When I was I taught a beginner's class at OVW. They would have like all the contract guys, the WWE guys, and then if anybody wanted to come, try out, it was kind of like a tryout class. At the time, we had it for 2 hours on Saturday, and I mean, I've had people like Muhammad Hassan, Mark Magnus came from Syracuse, New York, moved there, relocated there. Johnny Jeter, he joined that class from San Diego. He moved all the way there. Chris Cage moved all the way there from Youngstown, Ohio. And I was teaching this class, so when I would go work for Les, sometimes I would bring a few of the guys up there and just let them get a little experience. And Les is a real good guy.
Wow. When you were in OVW, was Linda Miles there at all?
Linda Miles! Yeah, Linda and I became really, really good friends. I don't know what the opinion of her is, but she and I became friends, but just kind of, we wrestled, but then we're also friends outside of just wrestling. We could sit and talk and just, I don't know. I saw her probably 8 months ago. We had a Raw, I think, in Cincinnati, and she was there, or somewhere around Cincinnati, and she was there. Linda was just by far the most spectacular woman athlete that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, she's probably 6'2", 6'3", just she could nip up, she could do anything in the ring, but she just didn't have a passion for professional wrestling. She wanted to be a TV star. She wanted to be, the glitz and the glamour, but she didn't want to travel town to town, at 3 o'clock in the morning and sleep in the gritty hotel and have to lug your baggage around. And she started on Tough Enough and wanted to be a star, but I don't think she really understood what you have to go through to really make it in this business. And once she got there, then she realized that she didn't want it. But I still think she's a super great girl, and I'm real good friends with her.
Wow. Now, when you started talking earlier, when you went up and you met with Vince and you kind of came up with your character, when you go from developmental to that stage of the game, do you sign a whole different kind of contract, or? Yeah.
There's I don't know what it is for everybody, but I can only say what it is for me. I was signed to a developmental contract. And I think first it was like maybe a year, maybe 3 years, and then I signed like another 3-year contract. But then at some point they sign you to what they call a booking contract, and that's kind of a mystery to everybody, because once you get signed to a booking contract, they you get paid per attendance on the shows. But then if you don't work shows, you get like a base pay. I was just getting a base pay because I was just wrestling in Louisville. Yeah. And then once I got called up, I was still on the same contract, but the money elevated. So I still don't understand it today. I would look at my check stub and whatever, but yeah, there's a difference between a developmental and a booking contract. Now, I don't know if everybody was given that, or if it's just some of us, because there's always rumors that, a lot of the guys that would get called in, they'd be pulling up in their Lexus SUVs and got their, their Gucci glasses, and, but we didn't ever give a shit.
Yeah. When you started going up and working more for like Velocity and Heat, did any of the since you were younger, did any of the veterans take liberties with you up there?
No, not really. I mean, everybody. I mean, if they did, I might have been too green to really know it.
A lot of the guys say that.
Because I mean, when we were in OVW, we were all students.
Yeah.
And we were all the fucking shits, and we knocked the shit out of each other. We didn't know the difference. We thought that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But then when you get in there with somebody who's really good and you realize that's how it's supposed to be, you look back and you think, well, either that guy was a shits or he did fucking take a liberty. So not that I know of, I don't think anybody, there was only one time that I felt like somebody really took a liberty on me. That was the USWA. Tank from the Truth Commission, who was Mantar. He, for some reason, I was like the smallest guy in USWA. Flash Flanagan was my partner, and the booker at the time was Mike Samples, I think, and he put them over us, and I don't know if he didn't like them and he did it like as a dig, or if they were getting ready to go to WWE, which they did, and he did it just to take the titles off of them. But for some reason, he takes me out to the floor, like on their second to last night, slams me on the floor. He was 400 pounds, drops an elbow on me.
Wow.
I rolled him. I was literally in the front row where the people's feet were. He drops another elbow on me when I'm on my side. My back, it still hurts to this day. And then the next night, we had to wrestle him again. And I was like, I was contemplating quitting. I was like, I can't do it. I'm scared to death. But some grace of God, they took a wrong turn and missed the show. And I was like, oh my God. But the funny thing was, I wrestled the new Diesel, which is Kane, right? And we wrestled on this like baseball field or something where there's dirt out there, and he kept throwing me out on the ground, and I had dirt all over me. I get back and he throw me out again, dirt all over my tights, all over my trunks, and I get back. Truth Commission come rolling in. Oh, we took a wrong turn. We're late. And I'm sorry. We already had the show. And I was like trying to duck down. He was never mean to me or anything. I don't know if he intended to hurt me, but fucking killed me.
Wow. Now, how did the deal come about where you did the Conquistadors thing on SmackDown?
Mm-hmm. I don't know where it came about. They just they put Ray and Kidman back together when they tagged on WCW. They put them back together on WWE, and I think they just wanted just a jobber tag team to go out there and put them over. And Conway and I were the Conquistadors, and so we just went out there and had a 3 or 4 minute match, and that was about the extent of it. I mean, it wasn't like anything that they didn't want to do anything with it. And actually, I was kind of not upset, but I was kind of let down because it wasn't even the real Conquistadors outfit. It was just white tights and this little mask. And it's not the Conquistadors. I mean, it was so fun to do it because I don't know, because we knew we were just going to go out there and make them look good and take bumps and feed, and we knew we could do that. And we were under a mask, so we were just going out there, and it was. I think it was more fun for Conway because he always had his guard up, and he always tried to impress people. He was the Iron Man, Rob Conway, and finally he's under a mask, so he can go out there and look like a fool.
Yeah.
In every sense, and not not have to somebody didn't have to work to make him look like a fool. He just go out there and act like an idiot, and so it was fun, but there wasn't really anything behind it. I don't think.
Now, and you also did a couple shots as Doink the Clown.
Yeah, I did too. It was on the pay-per-view. I don't remember. I remember it was in Colorado. I remember because the elevation, we were all dying. But we did I was on the same card as the Easter Bunny. It was my friend Aaron the Idol Stevens.
Oh wow, okay.
And yeah, they wanted me to be Doink, so they painted me up. And Brooklyn Brawler Steve Lombardi comes up. It's my outfit. Take good care of it. I need it back. So I put the Doink outfit on and went out there. It was the JBL's Barroom Brawl. Okay. And we just did whatever it is, like I don't know what the hell it was, a battle royal type thing. And then they came up to me. We were all supposed to do that on the Sunday at the pay-per-view and then go home. And they said, well, we need you tomorrow night at Raw. Is it the Raw or SmackDown? I can't remember. We need you another night because we want you to wrestle Benoit. I think we might have SmackDown. So we want you to wrestle Benoit for 15 minutes. I said, You want Doink the Clown to wrestle Benoit 15 minutes? Yeah. Wrestle him as Nick Dinsmore, but I want you to go 15 minutes. And I'm like, Doink the Clown hasn't been on this TV for 10 years, and you want him, okay. And then as we got a little closer, well, we want you to go 10 minutes. Well, we want you to go, 8 minutes. We want you to go 2 minutes. So I ended up wrestling twice and wrestled Benoit the second time, which my mom still has a picture of me as Doink the Clown on top of her television set. But that was my 10 years Doink.
Ha! Somebody's not going to. Cool. You had a match with Kenzo Suzuki, right? Around that time?
I had one dark match with Kenzo, yeah.
Yeah, what do you remember about that?
Kenzo, I mean, of Funaki, of Tajiri, I'm very good friends with. Kenzo probably spoke the worst English. And the only guy I've ever seen that bruised and whelped his own head beating me up. And he's giving me all these things in the corner. Yeah. Boom, he comes in and knocks the shit out of my head. And I had a big whelp, but it was up here in my hair.
Wow.
And his was like up here. And then they're like, well, you got to tell him to slow down and do this. I'm like, the fucker can't understand me.
Yeah.
But Kenzo was super nice. When him and his wife first came to Louisville, he didn't have a bank or anything. So he got his paycheck and he's, please help me cash. So we went to like one of those like check cashing places where they take, $10 or whatever. And we drove around, all day, and he had to get his passport and all this stuff and get there. And, it took me like 2 hours to drive him around and find the right place and get it set up. And I don't know, I cash. My wife may not let me give $10. You're not going, what the fuck are you going to do?
Yeah.
But whatever. He was a super nice guy. He wasn't in Louisville very long, so I wasn't around him a whole bunch. But Kenzo was all right. Our match was less than spectacular, but with the language barrier, I guess that's to be expected.
When you started talking again, going back to when you started coming up with the Eugene character, did you yourself have a lot of input in that?
Yeah, it was really what they would always tell me was nobody can do Eugene as well as you, so just go out there and do it. They sometimes would give me verbiage to say, and they wouldn't expect me to say it, just get the point across. And I did the best I could, but it was William Regal that made Eugene what he was, because he was the straight guy, and he would give me more input than anybody. Oh, try to do this, maybe act like this, when I do this, maybe you do this, but he and I were having so much fun. I remember the match, I think it was on Raw. It was Rob and Sly, the French Canadians against maybe Tajiri and Rhino.
Okay.
And I came out to Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler's stand and was doing whatever, and Regal's coming down. Oh, I'm sorry, the poor lad's out here, and I will sit down with this, Regal. Well, okay, Eugene, you play over there, and that's when I started playing on the board, and all the pyro went off.
Yeah.
we had rehearsed that earlier in the day, and very few times did Regal ever crack, just like joke, just like start laughing. But when he and I did that, we were running back up the stairs. We're both giggling like little girls. It's all the way back into the backstage area, just giggling and laughing. So like when we did that night, I mean it wouldn't matter if I laughed, but I was waiting for him to crack. But he on camera he's straight on. But it was Regal that made the Eugene character just so much more, because he would help me and he would mentor me and just in the ring, out of the ring, backstage vignettes, just life in general. I mean, he's a super great guy, and I'm truly blessed that I've met him.
So you think that was really critical to the success of the character, was being paired with him? Yeah,
well, without a doubt. To start off being paired with him, but just the character itself, I couldn't do much unless I was paired with somebody.
Yeah.
Because the point there where after my knee injury, when I came back and had the angle with Kurt Angle, I didn't feel like there was much to it, because I mean they had me with Christy Hemme, but there was not much banter backstage, and the whole thing was the backstage build up and the straight guy and then the goofy character off the wall. When they put me with Hacksaw, it was a little bit better because we could play off one another and just do our stuff. But if I didn't have somebody else to be with, then it was just kind of dead in the water.
Yeah. When you first started doing the character with Regal, did you think to yourself that I have something here, that this thing could really go?
Well, actually, I spoke about the meeting I had with Vince, and then they wanted to try it out at a house show before I was ever on TV. So they said, just bring whatever you have to wear. So I didn't have. I mean, I wore all my trunks said Dinsmore, Nick Dinsmore, Mr. Wrestling, something like that.
Huh.
So it was actually Conway that let me borrow those little blue trunks I had. And my friend Vito Andretti had picked up the ring jacket at a flea market for $7.
Huh.
It's just like a joke, like an '80s
Yeah.
jobber babyface ring jacket. And so I wore that out and just I pulled my knee pads down and had my boots and it was in St. Louis. It was an afternoon show, and I think it was we were wrestling like when the Final Four was going on. So I mean, the crowd was good, but it wasn't great because the Final Four was going on, afternoon show, and I wrestled Lance Cade, and I was so fortunate to have wrestled Lance Cade because I wrestled Lance when he was in OVW. Now OVW TV taping would go from 8 to 9 o'clock, then we would have a dark match afterwards. Now the TV matches kind of quick paced. You have a time, you have 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and you got to go. Well, the dark match afterwards, it was kind of our free reign to just have a good time and just have a house show match.
Okay.
So Lance, all the fans in OVW would call Lance Big Bird because he had a big nose and blonde hair, and the fans would bring stuffed Big Birds to the arena. So there was one match of Big Bird, and they got heat. I think maybe I was tagged with Johnny Jeter. I make the hot tag. I come in. I told the fans, throw me one of those Big Birds. So I grab it. He comes running. Whop! I didn't realize it had marble eyes.
Ah.
He said it knocked the shit out of him. He said that's the hardest he'd ever been hit in the ring was his 2 marbles.
Wow.
So I'd worked with Lance enough to really know him, and he knew how to have a non-TV match. Let's put it that way. So I wrestled him as my first match as Eugene, but I didn't have any TV exposure. So the beginning of the show, I think Tajiri wrestled Matt Hardy. So Matt Hardy goes out, Tajiri comes out, and I came out following Tajiri. And Tajiri, looking back, doing this thing, looking back at me, looking back. And the fans didn't have a fucking clue. Just some goddamn idiot walking behind Tajiri. Referees, no, get back. So I go back. Lance comes out, here I come out. And the fans, okay, whatever. And I just went out and just did my stuff. But it was really Lance that got me over. The crowd was chanting. I got beat in the match. The crowd was chanting Eugene by the end of the match. They never seen me on TV, which is very difficult to do.
Yeah.
I came back. Triple H was there. Stephanie was there. Fit and Arn, I think, were there. All of them standing ovation. And I was like almost in tears. The next Monday is when I started on TV, and it was Regal really who thought we had something more than I did. I was just just going out there doing kind of as they directed, and the fans I don't think took to it so much at the beginning, but Regal could see down the line to where I was kind of just following him, and it wasn't until I had my first match with Rob Conway that I really felt like this is going to work. And as actually I'd seen Mick Foley shortly after I did it, and he said when I first started, he's like, I don't think this is going to work, But then it was his kids, he told me, they were like, when's Eugene on? When's Eugene coming on? And that's when he's like, this might work. And then when Regal and I, we went to Connecticut to do the training video that we did, and Dr. Tom was there to help us out with that, and that was to teach me how to wrestle. And then the next week I had the wrestling match against Rob Conway, and I just remember, and Conway reminds me of this often, that there was a fan with a sign that said, I came to see Eugene, and I was just like, I was on top of the world, and whenever Conway enjoyed wrestling me as Eugene because it wasn't like wrestling anybody else.
Yeah.
Because if he punched me one time, it was like somebody just dropped a baby. It's like, oh my God, he just punched you. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
And it was like we had to do. I mean, it was so easy, and just we do just little things, and I'd watched enough Memphis wrestling. I watched enough Handsome Jimmy Valiant to know how to do entertaining spots. Pee on a guy's face, bite somebody in the ass, just little things that were different. And then Regal was the one who would show me how to do stuff that a wrestler in England named Johnny Saint did, wrapping yourself up in the ball and putting the hand, and just different entertaining things that set me apart from everybody else. I wasn't just a punch, kick, stomp guy. I could wrestle, I could entertain. I had plenty of sympathy. So it was just Regal really saw that there was something there a lot quicker than I did. But then once I had that first match, it was like, okay, this is going to work. It's going to work well. And then from there, it just expanded and expanded.
Yeah. Was when you came up there and you were finally on the full-time roster, was there any kind of an initiation among the boys?
No, it's like I said before. I mean, I knew 3/4 of the locker room.
Yeah.
I mean, they they've been setting up the ring in OVW while I was sitting there, barking orders, 3, 4, 5 years earlier. So I would just, a lot of them, like Randy Orton would tell me, he's like, I always knew you were going to make it. Because I would joke to Randy, I said, fuck, I'm never going to make it out of Louisville. I'm going to be here forever. And Randy was, no, you're going to make it. And then when I finally got called up, I was like, I'm so glad you finally made it. You deserve it. And I just took it as like another step in my career that just, good things just kept happening for me. I mean, I just kept trying and good things kept happening. And there's, I really wasn't ever, initiated, but I was just accepted.
Yeah. Who did you ride with when you started coming up? And
like when guys first come up, the office usually gets them a rental car for the first couple weeks. So for the first couple weeks, it was like when Johnny Nitro first came up, and he was Bischoff's secretary, whatever the fuck he was, and we knew each other from OVW, so we kind of rode together for a little bit until I really got to know Regal a little more, and then I was, like I said, I always look up to Regal, so he and I started riding together. Plus, we were partners, so that helped out, and I remember we would do a thing because I would always drive. And we'd pull up at the arena, and all the fans would, Eugene, you can drive? And so I'd come, like, I would swerve in, and he'd be going like this, oh my God, and he'd get out the car, Eugene, I just got my driver's permit, and then after a couple weeks, I think Tajiri's wife, they just had their first baby, he came back on the road, and since Tajiri and Regal, they work well together, he jumped in with us, and Regal would always say, he didn't know how Tajiri and I would hit it off, but he and I hit it off so good. I mean, I remember he and I, like Regal would sleep in the mornings. Tajiri and I would go to the gym. So one morning we went to the gym. We're leaving. He goes, "Let's go McDonald's." Okay, so we went to McDonald's. The next day, go to the gym. Let's go McDonald's. I said, Tajiri, I don't want to go to McDonald's. Let's go to Burger King. Can't go Burger King. I can't say Ooper. I can say Big Mac. I can't say Ooper. So, you fucker. So I remember one night later on, Tajiri and Cena and I were riding together, and we went to like an Applebee's or Charlie's or something. Electricity went off. They couldn't serve food, but they could serve alcohol. So we just sat there and drank and drank and drank. Finally, Tajiri goes, "Fuck, I'm so hungry, I can eat a Whopper." Ooper, sorry, Ooper. Oh, you motherfucker. Everybody was teasing because you can speak better English. No, I can't speak English. My English shit. And I wasn't there the day that he asked for his release. He quit, but they said, there's a big meeting in the Raw locker room. He stands up. Excuse me, everybody. I'm going to quit today. Thanks. Everybody's been great. I'm going back to Japan. See you later. I just remember he called me that day and he was like, Eugene, this to Jerry. Today I quit. Goodbye. Like, back to Japan.
I was going to ask you if he worked you with the English, and apparently he did.
Well, when I first first started doing dart matches, I remember we were all sitting in an airport. There was a layover, plane delay or something. He's on the cell phone like this. I remember he was talking like this, and I knew right away he kayfabed his English a little bit. But Conway and I, there was like, I can't remember where we were flying out of, but there was like 2 flights. Like, everybody flew on the first flight, and for some reason, Conway, Funaki, and I got bumped to the second one, and it was delayed, so we had to take a taxi somewhere else, and it got all screwed up. But Funaki's English was a lot better than Tajiri's, but still, I think Americans couldn't understand him very well. Mm-hmm. So I helped Funaki a lot, and I'm not sure if Funaki told Tajiri, because they would always talk to one another. But for some reason, or maybe just Tajiri and I just hit it off, but right away, and I could tell after a while when he was just playing me with the English, but the Americans couldn't understand, Regal would always joke that this should be a sitcom because you got, Tajiri, people can't understand him. Regal, when he would do his thick British accent, people couldn't understand him. Then you got Eugene running around acting crazy and people can't understand me. But Tajiri would always have to, I usually have to help him order because, he'd always eat his food. He and I would drink 3 or 4 beers and he'd want a glass of wine. I like a glass of Merlot. What? Merlot. Merlot. He would like a glass of Merlot, please. Merlot, wine. But he tried to work me a little bit, but then after a while, he and I became very, very good friends.
What are the memories of some of the earlier skits you did with the Coach?
Oh, Coach is great. I don't know how to put. Coach is like, he's always on point, and we would have so much fun. But of course, the greatest skill we had, and he and I was still talking to this day, was the one with the Rock. And he said, that he says by far is his greatest memory on TV, and mine as well. I remember early in the day I showed up and they said Sly came up to me, Sylvain Grenier, and they said, the Rock might be coming in to do a skit with you today. I'm like, yeah, fuck off, whatever, he's not. And he came in late, and I was like, oh my God, and then they ran over the skit, and I had the one line, I had the one line, the Triple H line, I think, or the one before, whatever. And I think I had 2 or 3 lines, but we were walking through it, and I couldn't remember shit. I mean, Coach had this much verbiage, Rock had this much verbiage, and I had 2 lines, and I couldn't fucking remember them. And I just remember Rocky's in the ring, he's walking around, he's doing his stuff, and he just walks by and goes, "Oh, your line's coming up," and comes in, and then boom, it hits me with the mic, and it was on point. And Rock was tremendous. That's like really the only time. I mean, I'd met him before, but the only time I really ever worked with him, and he was just. To be in the ring and to feel that crowd and the electricity and just have him just to be able to look at people and the people would just go crazy. And I know Coach felt the same way. I mean, it was just, both of us. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. And it was just amazing. I remember, coaches berate me, "You're nothing, nobody wants you here," and just the tears came in my eyes. I mean, legitimate tears were coming down. "Get out of here." And I made it all the way back. Boom, Rock music's hit. Nobody knew he was there. Crowd just went nuts. "Eugene, get your ass back in the ring." And, oh my God! I'm sweating just thinking. But it was career highlight, definitely.
Wow. Definitely. Whose idea was it to relate you to Bischoff in the storyline?
I don't know. I really don't know. They just I came in and I don't know if it was some sort of dig on Bischoff, but I seem to think it's like it added like instant credibility to me because all of a sudden I was in the business and it gave me I needed to get in some way because WWE wouldn't be able to hire, a special person such as Eugene. So, the whole thing was, Bischoff and my mom were brother and sisters, and it was kind of like a favor to my mom to get Eugene in there. And then, but it worked out perfectly because Bischoff was constantly trying to get rid of me, and if he doesn't do this, he's fired. And then I would accomplish the goal. And if he didn't do this, he's fired. If he loses this match, he's gone. And it constantly gave him a way to go after me. And at the same time, I got to know Bischoff even better. I was in WCW for a bit, so I'd met him in passing, but the things I read about him and just all the stuff I'd heard is always negative connotation. But he was nothing but professional and great, and he and I would joke, and I learned a lot from him. I read his book, and I thought it was a tremendous book. I mean, he's for as much as people say bad about him, I think he has a lot to give to this business. I just saw him last weekend, and I don't know if he's done with wrestling or not, but I mean, he seemed in good spirits, and I like Eric a lot. Uncle Eric, as I always say.
Uncle Eric. At what point did you think to yourself, wow, like was it a match? Was it an angle? Was it a reaction where you thought, wow, like I've made it?
I don't know, because it all just came so fast.
It was really fast,
and it would probably have to be. Like that feeling of wow, I made it, and it was also a weird feeling because it was at the SummerSlam when I see my picture next to Triple H, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting there getting ready to walk out. I'm like, I'm at SummerSlam, I'm wrestling Triple H. Just oh my gosh, and I walk out and people booed the shit out of me. I was like, oh, what do I do now? I swear I just buried my hand in my face. I was like, I don't know what to do. We were in Toronto, and it was like all this build up and all this great TV. He had bloodied Regal, and I'd come back and I was ready to wrestle and everywhere in the United States. He and I wrestled in New Mexico, and just I've gone after him, and people were into it. We get up there and it just total reversal. They cheered him and booed me, and it was like I'm on top of the world, but yet I don't know what. It's just like okay,
yeah,
I just go with it. But it's that was. Right before I walked out of that match, it was probably the point where I got an action figure, I got a T-shirt. At that point, I think that those little Fanatic pay-per-views that they have.
Yeah.
They had one of me, which I still haven't seen, but I had one of me, and I'm like, I've got my own freaking pay-per-view, an action figure, T-shirt, and people recognized me in the airport, and just it was incredible. And then walk out and get booed to shit, but oh well, I was there.
Was it For somebody like yourself that, as you said, it all happened so fast, I would assume with the way things work, you're making more money, you're obviously more famous than you've ever been. Was it hard to kind of stay grounded and not let it all go to your head, or?
I'd like to think that it wasn't difficult. I mean, I really don't think so. I would go home and play with my dog every night, and still go to the gym, and it got to be more difficult to return phone calls just because of the busy schedule. But I try my best, stay in touch with everybody, and just I did see some people go up and get a big head, but then like John Cena, he's one who was never gotten a big head. I mean, I remember he was on TV doing well, and he came when he was in Louisville and stayed at my house. I had one of those little inflatable mats, right? I didn't know it had a hole in it. So by the morning, he's laying on the ground. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I feel bad. This guy's the time he's U.S. champion, and he's on the floor in my house, but he didn't care. We're just friends, and I don't feel like wrestling, give me a big head. At least I hope it didn't. So.
Yeah. Did you find yourself, as the character started expanding, did you find yourself being treated different, better by management, the writers, Vince, and that kind of thing?
Not so much there, because that was just kind of even. I just remember I came back and did a show on OVW for Danny, and I remember when we wrestled before on OVW, and goddamn baby faces, get out there and sign some autographs, make these people happy so they come back. I went back and did a show at the Six Flags with Danny. Would you mind maybe signing some autographs for me? Like, Danny, look who you're talking to. Gee, just tell me to go sign some goddamn autographs, please. But as far as the writing staff and everybody was just, evenly nice from the day I started. Michael P.S. Hayes will flip me off every day, and that never changed. So I felt like it was constant.
Yeah. How approachable is Vince?
He still intimidates the shit out of me, but when I had that first meeting with him, he sat down in front of me, how's it going? What's going on? Who'd you watch wrestling growing up? Asked me about my mom, and there were times when I needed to ask a question that I could go right up and ask, and he would stop everything he's doing, look at me, think about it, and answer me. But I was still just, that's Vince McMahon, I was so intimidated that it was hard for me to approach him, to get over my, my fear of who he is, my intimidation. But when I had to, he's right there, just like I could ask anybody else a question. So I think he's very approachable, but it was he still has that stigma of being Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, but just
sure,
the aura of who he is.
Did he, as your character was expanding, you were getting, you were in more main events, did Vince give you feedback on your character, like, I really like this, maybe you should try this, or?
Yeah, but he did that, with everybody, he was so, from what I saw, he was so hands-on. He would give feedback to the first guy, to the last guy. I remember one time, the guy who wrestled for Memphis, Tony Williams, was doing a dark match, and Vince walking by, Tony, you got big legs, you should cut your trunks a little bit higher to show off your legs. And this guy's in a dark match.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I was up there, he would constantly, and when he wanted something specific, he would sit down and say, "This is the way I want it," and have me, and have me specifically do it, and then afterwards, he'd always say, "Good job," and I would thank him, and I just, I feel blessed that he gave me the opportunity to do what I did,
How did the whole idea come about for you to start doing the angle with Triple H?
I don't know where it started. The first thing when the Rock came down, Rock's like, who's your friend? The Rock. Who's the most, whatever. The Rock. Who's your favorite wrestler? Triple H. And even before that, when Regal and I were doing the training video, they had me with the Triple H thing. So I think for some reason, I don't know if they wanted it or maybe as the character progressed, that was, the next step to go was to put me against Triple H, and I don't know where it started, but that's, once it kicked off, first time that Eugene met Triple H was on Jericho's highlight reel.
All right.
And when all Evolution came down, and that was one of my favorite angles too, because Triple H was always behind the back, pulling the strings, and Eugene when Benoit was trying to be friends with him, and the whole build up until Benoit wrestled Triple H in the hour Iron Man match on Raw, which is by far one of my favorite matches. And then I came, to be involved in the match. I came down at the end and caused Benoit to win. And I mean, it was. I don't know where the angle started, but I'm very glad that it did.
Yeah. Now, Triple H is a polarizing figure. On shoots, some of the guys, they either love him or they hate him. And you're a guy, that's worked directly with him and for quite some time. What are your thoughts on him?
I mean, I can understand how people will take some of the things that happen on TV and assume certain things about him. But I've seen him be a comedian. I've seen him be a heel. I've seen him be a babyface. I've seen him be nice as can be. But he's always been business. With me. I remember there was we were I can't remember where we were, but there was a woman who I don't think she had cable. She would watch DVDs of wrestling, and this woman was probably 89 years old. She was in a wheelchair, but her favorite wrestler was Triple H. And I think she was on USA or one of those morning shows, one of the oldest women ever, some kind of shit like that.
Yeah.
And her thing was she wanted to meet Triple H, so they're like, they didn't tell her, but all of a sudden he comes out. Well, she came to the show that night, and he was just going out of his way to bring everybody out to meet her, give her merchandise. I mean, he's such a nice guy, but I think sometimes what he does on TV, people really take as him.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is he's the best WWE has. I mean, whether people want to admit it or not, they're going to criticize him, for what he does. They're going to, but they're still going to watch. And he legitimately, being in the ring with him, he never got rattled. He was always a general. He was always, took care of me. I mean, it was just, he's the best wrestler that the WWE has now. And therefore, I think he has to be in the position that he's in. And anybody that's in that much power is going to get criticized from A to Z for every step that they make. So, if you say you like him, you're a kiss ass. If you say you hate him, then you're on a bandwagon. So, I have nothing bad to say about him. He was professional with me. I didn't know him that well personally.
Yeah.
But he worked with me. He took care of me, and I think he's a tremendous wrestler, tremendous talent.
What do you remember about the Raw main event that you had? It was you, Benoit, and Edge against Flair and Triple H real early into the deal.
It was me, Triple H, and against Edge and Benoit, right?
I think it was. I think this match in particular was Flair and Triple H, and against. I think you were with Benoit and Edge, maybe. I know they had every week they would kind of change it up a bit. Did you wrestle Flair at all?
I wrestled Flair 2 times. They were on house shows.
Okay.
And but I don't recall that match specifically. The match I remember was when I was it happened in Winnipeg. I remember this. It was a match when Bischoff was out and I was the commissioner for a day. And I remember it because this when they had that bouncy house in Eugene's office. And oh my god! And the night before we were in Calgary, and normally we would have an afternoon show on Sunday. They would fly us to the town Raw is going to be in, so we get a good night's sleep. But for some reason, some fucker flew us that morning from Calgary to Winnipeg. So we had to be up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Fly to Winnipeg. We get there. It's too early to check in hotel, so we're just sitting there, and until we have to be at the arena at noon or whatever time it was. And then they're like, I was on 6 segments that day. 5 segments in that goddamn bouncy gym, and we had to walk through everything beforehand. So we want you bouncing, so I'm fucking bouncing. No, let's do it again. So I'm bouncing. Oh, let's do it again. I'm bouncing. And then we had to do it, for the actual live TV, and I did that on 5 segments. So by the end of the day, my calves were cramping. I was blown up. My legs are sore. And then they said, okay, we want you to go out there and have a match now. Oh my God. I can't bitch and complain because anybody would die to be in that position. But
sure.
It was a rough day at the office. And the match that I remember was Edge and Benoit against Triple H, Flair, and myself. I do believe because that's the time that I came in with the chair and Triple H hit Benoit and I didn't want to hit him because he's my friend.
Yeah.
I didn't want to hit him. He's my friend. And Triple H do it. And I hit him and I got so mad at myself and I was crying and kicking the chair. Stupid chair, And then I think we won the match, but that's I remember in one of those segments is when I set up is when Flair and Batista were partners on and off, and and I set up, it's going to be a tag team title match, La Resistance against Flair, and then Batista's like, yeah, it's going to be me and Eugene, and then Flair's like, what the fuck? and that's when I tagged with Flair at the, I can't remember what pay-per-view it was, but I got to go out in his robe, and I've got a picture of that at home. It's Flair walking out like, what the fuck is this guy? And then me in his robe doing his stuff, and I went out there and I tried my best to emulate Ric Flair in the match, and I was wrestling with Conway again, and we had watched enough Flair to be able to just have a good time, and that was so much fun. That was the whole Raw in Winnipeg, being the commissioner. I've got a picture of that too. Me by the big bouncy gym and just everything.
Do you think, as somebody that was there and's been in the ring with him, do you think that at his age, that Flair makes the younger guys look weaker in terms of selling for somebody? I mean, obviously you and I, we know who Ric Flair is, but to the general public, maybe they don't.
I don't know, because like you said, no, I'm kind of skewed because Flair's a legend of mine.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen him, ever since I grew up, and I don't know. I think Flair knows what he needs to do now, and I think he wrestles differently now than he did when he was, the NWA World Champion. So I think he knows what he needs to be used for, and that's the way he does wrestle. But the fact of the matter is, when you go into any Raw arena before the show, you hear "woo" at least 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And I mean, I hear people say, your fans come. I came to see Ric Flair.
Huh.
People say, I don't care, if he's a legend. I don't care how old he is. I want to see Ric Flair wrestle, and that's the bottom line. Is he's still an attraction. People are still paying to see him, so I think he should wrestle.
Yeah. Now, you did some angles. This was before she started actually managing you with Christy Hemme. I think you kissed her. You did the kiss. Did you slip her the tongue?
I'm not at liberty to say.
What's it like to work in skits and angles with Vince himself? Because as you've said, he's like bigger than life to a lot of us.
I think the one most recently was on Saturday Night's Main Event, when they were trying to find out who Vince's son was, and who came out first? Did I come out first? And then Balls came out. I think that got edited. Then Milena came out. Then Austin came out. And we were doing whatever we were doing, and just it was taped on Saturday Night's Main Event, but out of nowhere I just kissed him on the cheek, and I don't know if it was the right thing or wrong thing to do, but I just thought it was funny, and I felt like that's what Eugene would do. And but working with Vince was like, it was intimidating, but yet we were in the same little skit together, so we worked together. So I can't say he wasn't any more intimidating than when he would be Mr. McMahon. But he was a lot of fun to work with. I mean, he would laugh and cut up and joke just like anybody else would. I mean, and it's kind of hard to think about him in that in that perspective. But
yeah,
he would. I mean, he would laugh and tell jokes and stop in the middle of something and crack a joke, and it was just it was fun to work with.
What do you remember about wrestling Eric Bischoff at Taboo Tuesday?
Bischoff at Taboo Tuesday. Can I put this? There were plenty of guys that wrestled for WCW before that disliked Bischoff, that kind of urged me to take a liberty on him. And I just remember beforehand thinking, there's all these guys that want me to do this, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I mean, I couldn't professionally. I mean, this guy had worked with me. I mean, this guy helped build Eugene, and then to go do that to him, there's a lot of people that had a lot of animosity for whatever their relationship was. I couldn't bring it into our match. And I just remember, Bischoff does his little taekwondo, karate, whatever, and he kicked the shit out of me. But, it wasn't bad, but he's just doing his thing. And we only wrestled for 2 minutes. And then I shaved his head afterwards. And I was really concerned because I know how those little clippers go, that sometimes they don't cut the hair. Oh, yeah, they'll cut it. Yeah. Are you sure? They'll cut it. And I get the churn, and Vince is over there, damn it, Eugene, cut his hair. And I can't get it. He's, his hair's a little bit sweaty and things going like that. And I'm sure I just ripped the shit out of his hair. Yeah. I think he bled a little bit because I just finally dug into it, but it was just, we'll just finish it in the back.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It just, sometimes, although when Vince had my head shaved, the clippers, went right through and trimmed it up perfect. So I don't know if that was just the trimmers or the person doing the trimming.
A lot of fans, their favorite match of yours is the Beat the Clock match against Edge. A lot of people still talk about that. What do you remember about that match?
Angle.
Oh, was it Kurt Angle? Did you do something with Edge too?
I wrestled Edge once on Raw, but it wasn't unless I'm mistaken. The clock challenge was the 3-minute Kurt Angle challenge. I was out with the knee injury. I got injured at the New Year's Revolution in Puerto Rico. It was Regal and I against Tom Cole and Christian. Lita got hurt, I think, right after me. I think she wrestled maybe Trish. She hurt her knee. I tore my patella tendon. They said, you're going to be out 8 months. So I got my surgery by Dr. Andrews, and I started doing therapy in Birmingham, and I was doing therapy twice a day, and I was busting my ass, and I came back in 6 months, which, looking back in hindsight, was I should have taken 8 months and really rehabbed it all the way. But I came back early, and then I could move just like day-to-day stuff, walking around, but to go out there and go with somebody at the level of Kurt Angle, I mean, he had to literally carry me because I couldn't move, I couldn't pivot, I couldn't turn, I could barely run, and basically he just kicked the shit out of me for about 2 minutes and 40 seconds, put me in the angle lock, I did the roll, he went out of the ring, I lasted the 3 minutes, which Christy awarded me the angle medal. I think that's the question you're asking of, and that match, I don't think I've ever been like physically abused in any sport, in any match, more than I was in the time I wrestled with Kurt Angle. He didn't do it maliciously. He is just a rough, tough SOB, and he wrestles as hard as he wants to be wrestled, and he can go harder than anybody that I've ever wrestled against. I mean, he's 90 miles an hour all the time, full on, and I remember one time he's going to punch me, and I was supposed to duck. I didn't duck. Boom! Right in the face. Both eyes blacked.
Wow.
And my fault. I'll duck next time, Kurt.
Huh.
But it was a lot of fun working with Kurt. He had a lot of ideas of stuff that we could do that never got used. He wanted to do a thing. Let me see if I can remember it. Where it shows us showing up at the arena showing up at the airport after I won the gold medal, and it's got the limo driver there holding the Kurt Angle sign. Oh, you're an Olympic gold medalist. Yeah, I want a gold medal. I want a gold medal. Oh, you must be. Here's your limo, in a big stretched out limo, right? And then Kurt Angle comes in all pissed off. Are you Eugene? Why are you asking? And something about for some reason I think he wanted to take a pop in the mouth or something because he wanted to have his mouth wires shut to where he couldn't talk. And he'd go like this, and so then they put him in the miniature bus with the straight jacket and stuff, and show him up at the ring. But that wasn't the pursuit they had for Kurt Angle at the time. They were building him to work with Cena, so they needed him to be stronger, which became a common theme there towards the end of my run with WWE. I wrestled with Angle to build him for Cena. I wrestled with Umaga, which built him for Cena. I wrestled with Giant Khali, built him for Cena. So, which was a role that I enjoyed having.
Yeah.
I was riding with the champ. I was working with guys that eventually worked with. At least that's the way I saw it. I may be mistaken. But, that's kind of how I took on it. It's funny when Cena would be like, I was wrestling with Khali, and he goes, I think I'm going to end up wrestling him. So, you fucking think so? Every guy I wrestle ends up wrestling with you. I get the shit kicked out of me to find out that if they're going to hurt you or not. and that's the way it goes. But and as far as Angle, it was tough. I mean, I earned the gold medal.
What do you, speaking of tough, what do you remember about your match with Corey Macklin and Jerry Lawler?
Oh, my God. One of my favorite matches because, growing up in Louisville, I'd always watch Jerry Lawler wrestle. Mid-South Coliseum was like this, this it was the Madison Square Garden of the Memphis territory. So all of a sudden, I'm wrestling in the Madison, in the Mid-South Coliseum. Jerry Lawler was a heel, and his partner was Jimmy Hart. And but Lawler really couldn't be a heel in Memphis. I mean, everybody in Memphis knew him. Everybody in Memphis loved him. And the angle was Corey Macklin. Lawler kept messing with him, and Corey Macklin was an announcer, so he really wasn't a wrestler. And Lawler kept messing with him. Him and Jimmy Hart kept messing with him. Finally, he goes, "Okay, well, I'm gonna bring in a friend of mine. It was around Christmas, I remember, because Corey was like, this guy's gonna come to my house for Christmas, and we're gonna show up at the Mid-South Coliseum and wrestle you. And Lawler's like, well, I don't care who it is. Oh, it's Eugene. Hopefully the crowd got excited. But I did a phone-in interview, and I said, because Handsome Jimmy Valiant cut an album, and then Lawler cut the same album, and it was I stole a lyric off it. I said, rolling to Memphis TWA to all my friends that Eugene's on his way. But I did a live phone in there on Memphis TV, and Jimmy Hart was there. And Jimmy Hart, when I was a kid, I tried to get a picture signed by you, and you wouldn't sign it. You ripped it up and threw it away. So that gave me just a little thing to go with him. But then I tagged with Corey, and I just remember being in the Mid-South Coliseum. It was a big building, and there was a lot of people there, and just wrestling Lawler in the Mid-South Coliseum. I remember we were just standing there in the ring, and I'm just kind of like in awe, like, oh my God, and this one of those moments, that you talked about earlier, when I'm just like, I'm here, I'm in the Mid-South Coliseum, and but then, God love it, Corey was just a rotten wrestler. He's a great guy, but he was never trained, you can't fault somebody who was never trained, but he was out there trying his best, and I could just see Lawler out there almost laughing at him. Lawler knocked the shit out of him, and Corey'd come back, and then there's Jimmy Hart now over there, and I've got the claw on Jimmy Hart, and he's selling it over, yelling. Jimmy was always really good to me. He was cool. It's one of the matches I didn't get a picture of me and Lawler in the ring in the Mid-South Coliseum, and I wish I would have.
You went down to IWA Puerto Rico for, was it just one date that you went down there for?
There was two.
Okay.
Let me try to think. But yeah, it was two. After my knee surgery, right after I got cleared, that was the first. It was weird. I got injured in Puerto Rico, and then my first two matches back were in Puerto Rico. And like I said, I came back probably way too soon, probably 2 months too soon. So I was having trouble moving. And the first one was a memorial. I'm not real familiar with the wrestling in Puerto Rico, but it was a memorial show for it was for Victor Quiones' company for one of the bodyguard.
Okay. I think it was Victor the Bodyguard. I think his name was.
Victor the Bodyguard, yeah. And it was like a 6-man match that I was in. Bushwhacker Luke was down there, and then I knew Flash, who was wrestling down there as Slash Venom. And then the next night was like somewhere on the other side of the island. They said I tagged with Ricky Banderas, who is now on TNA as. I don't know his name.
I know he's on now. I don't know what
TNA.
I know he's on there.
But it was different in Puerto Rico. Like the times we were there with WWE, we were kind of isolated. Anytime we went, I don't want to say Puerto Rico's outside the United States, but anytime we went outside the United States, we were all kind of, taken care of, bussed, flown, security, kind of taken in and out. And that's what it was. But then when I went there, I was, picked up at the airport, dropped off at a hotel, sent up there. There was people up and down the street 24 hours a day. They have little scooters, beep, 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 beep. And I remember I worked next door to like this Burger King, fast food, right? 15 minutes it took to get my order. I'm like, fast food, a different term in Puerto Rican. But it was cool. It was like the fans in Puerto Rico were so wanting to believe, but something was missing. From what I've heard, since Victor Quiones has passed away, the company there is not doing as well as Carlos's company.
Yeah.
So.
What you talked about that angle you did with The Rock. What was it like to do an angle with Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania?
That was tremendous. It was cool on both ends because, like I said, I'd helped train Muhammad Hassan.
Oh, right.
Mark Magnus, and he was the one in the ring, and he put me in that camel clutch, and it was cool, that somebody that I'd helped train. We were both at WrestleMania in the ring, and then Hulkster's music hits, and he comes out, and just the place just lit up. To be there in front of that many people. I was out there kind of promo about midgets, midget wrestling, WrestleMania 3, and Muhammad beats me up, camel clutch, and Hulkster comes out, and it was just, it was great. I got my picture with Hulk, and it was like the kid coming out,
Yeah.
You gotta get your picture with the Hulkster when you get the chance.
That's like the pinnacle of wrestling fans to be a part of WrestleMania with Hulk Hogan. It's like the double shot right there.
Yeah, it was like, that's another career highlight. It was incredible.
Yeah. Now, did you like, I know you touched on it briefly, did you like when you were actually paired with Christy Hemme when you went from Regal to her?
I didn't dislike it. I really like Christy Hemme, but I just felt like for a character purpose, it didn't benefit Eugene as well as paired with someone who was that I could play off of better.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of just put her with me. I'm not sure if they didn't know what else to do with her, or if they had a different idea of where they wanted to go and it didn't pan out. Because I always wanted to do like the cheerleading type stuff, and I've never been a cheerleader. I was trying my best to do stuff, and she was great to work with. I mean, she was cheerful and happy and willing to try anything, but we just didn't gel as nearly as well as Regal and I, or even Hacksaw and I. But it was kind of the dynamic wasn't there. So
yeah. Now, what are your memories of teaming with another legend, Jimmy Snuka?
Superfly Blood. I remember because that was the pay-per-view. It was a Cyber Sunday. It was Conway and Tom Cole against me, and the fans' choice between Kamala, Hacksaw, and Superfly. And Superfly got like, I don't know how many more votes than anybody else, but he was just great to work with. I mean, he watched him growing up, and I mean, he was on top. He was the biggest name in wrestling for a time, and then to be paired with him, got my picture with him. But what I remember the most is afterwards we were in San Diego. I'm pretty sure it was San Diego, and he had a red eye back to I think Newark, New Jersey, somewhere. Yeah, he asked me to take him to the airport. Brother, can you take me to the airport? Sure, Jimmy, anything for you. A little GPS on the screen. Turn right here. Brother, what's it saying? What's that mean, brother? Jimmy, it's a GPS. It tells us how to get there. That's a good gimmick, brother. Yeah, brother. Yeah, you'll talk to him, brother. They put us back together, brother. Me and you, we be a team, brother. Okay, Jimmy. Thanks, buddy. I mean, but he was great. And then I got to work with his son, Deuce, and occasionally Jimmy would come and just hang out with his son. So I got to see him again, and then just working with Deuce was a lot of fun too. I wish we could have done more when I was with Deuce and Domino, but it just didn't pan out that way.
Yeah. Now, on a sad note, how did you find out about Eddie Guerrero?
We were in Minneapolis that morning. I remember. My fiance had dropped me off at the building, and Val Venus was the first one. He said, "You ever had Eddie?" I said, "No." He said, "He passed away." And just that whole day was, I mean, we were getting ready to go overseas. We were headed to England, and it was just, God, it was just like a long, miserable, dreary day of just people speculating, people not knowing, and then just, I still remember the Johnny Cash song "Hurt" played when we were all out front there. And anytime I hear it, and that's exactly what I think of now. And then I read his book, probably maybe a year after he passed away, and I just cried because just the way the book ended, he was just so full of life.
Yeah.
I didn't know Eddie that well, and that's one thing that, I really wish I'd met him, but I was on Raw when he was on SmackDown, so I really didn't get to know him as well as I wish I would have. But just reading his book and just so full of life and so wanting to give back to wrestling. And I mean, I totally enjoyed watching him wrestle, and I wish I could have wrestled him and just learned from him, anything. And that's one thing that I wish I would have gotten more, is just more time around Eddie.
Now, a few days later, you were hospitalized, and
yes, I was.
It was publicized on the WWE website. Did you feel kind of betrayed that WWE would go and put that on their own website?
No, because I mean, I was the one that screwed up. I mean, the gist of it was I had knee surgery. Maybe at that point it was 9 months, a year earlier. Do you have a date on that?
I know it was like when all this happened, when you passed out.
Yeah.
It was like right after Eddie died. It was like 3 days later or something like that.
Yeah,
I forget the exact date though.
Long story short, I had the knee surgery, and then I would start taking pain medicine to cope with, patella tendon tear is a pretty severe surgery. I was hospitalized for 4 days. I was racked up on the couch for 2 weeks before I could actually even get around. And to cope with that, I'd started taking the pain medicine. I couldn't sleep at night, and I'd always seen somas in the locker room, or not necessarily in the locker room, but just in the wrestling business. And I'd taken them a few times, but it's just that always made me pass out. But at the time when I was in so much pain, I knew that they would put me to sleep.
Yeah.
So I started taking those to sleep, and then when I started combining them, I realized that this it's a pretty wild ride. And so for a point there, when I was doing therapy, I'd get up, I'd do therapy in the morning, I'd do therapy in the afternoon, then I would have, all evening sitting in a hotel room in Birmingham by myself, and it just got to be a pattern where I would just take this and take this. And when I got back on the road, I came back early and I was trying to deal with the pain, and it was just more and more. And that particular time, and I was in Manchester, I probably drank about 6 beers, taking, I don't know, a handful of somas, and the doctor gave me some Valium to sleep for the time change. When I got to England, I took some of those, and I called some food up to my room, and I was setting the tray out the room, and the door shut behind me. And luckily I put my shorts on, otherwise I'd have been in my underwear, but I had to go back down and get another key. And that's the last thing I remember was walking down the hallway, and from what I heard, Triple H and John Cena were the two that found me. And Cena had seen me messed up a couple of times, but he could usually wake me up. And he couldn't wake me up, and he couldn't wake me up. And all the fans, I mean, in England, it's like, fans are all there, and all the guys, all the boys were in the bar, and I was laying in the damn lobby in Manchester, and they put me on a luggage cart and wheeled me, out of the way so nobody could see me. And the next thing I know, I woke up in a hospital, and IVs in my arms and plugs on my chest, and our security, Jimmy Tillis, was just sitting there, just like, it's probably 3:30 in the morning. I'd probably been out for 4 hours, and he was I could just tell he was drained and pissed off, and the next thing I know, I get a call, you're going home, and a couple days later, I got sent to the mental institution.
Yeah. Was that something like before you got into wrestling? Did you ever like take pain meds or anything like that, or?
No. I mean, I drank a bit in high school, but I mean, it wasn't. I never really even saw pain medicine used recreationally until I got into wrestling, and it still wasn't. I mean, I've probably been wrestling 7 or 8 years before I realized that I could take it for pain, and really, realized that I enjoyed the way that it made me feel.
Yeah.
And then once that knee surgery happened, I mean, it was just, that was the most painful thing I've ever had in my life. And I remember just laying there on the couch and just, I couldn't move, I couldn't go to the bathroom, I couldn't get up to eat. I mean, I was so dependent on other people, and it just hurt so bad. The morning after the surgery, I was in so much pain, I was begging the nurse just for something, and she was like, she couldn't give me anything until the doctor okayed it. And it was like maybe 5:30 in the morning. I was in Birmingham, and I guess the doctor didn't get in until 6 o'clock. And I don't know, he was 5 or 10 minutes late. And I just remember that 30, 45 minutes, I was just like in tears. I was in so much pain. I mean, I'm usually trying my best not to be a mean person, but I was screaming at nurses. I mean, I was throwing shit. I mean, I couldn't get out of the damn bed. I mean, I was just screaming and dying until finally, the doctor came in. Oh yeah, he can have some for pain. But it was just so painful. Just that oh yeah, I can't even describe. And just the constant habit of taking those and then realizing that I kind of enjoyed it, and then using it as a crutch to deal with the pain, and going through the therapy and trying to get back sooner. Because they said 8 months, and I was like, no, I had to push myself, it hurt. So take a little bit for this, and then take something for sleep, and it just became a cycle that just really bit me in the ass.
Was it hard when you got back on the road and started wrestling full time to get yourself off of everything?
When?
Well, after this, when you finally, when you got back on the road and started
wrestling. After the knee surgery, or after the
after you passed out and you went away for a little while.
Yeah. I went to rehab for 9 weeks in Atlanta, and in there, they really taught me the skills that it takes, to deal with everyday life, and there was a 12-week program, and for some reason or another, I was only given a 9-week sentence, and I don't know exactly why, because there were people there with like some real hardcore issues, and I had some issues of my own, but it wasn't nearly as severe as maybe other people. So
yeah.
I tend to think that that's the reason that I got a lesser time frame. But the first time I came back was at the Royal Rumble, and I do remember standing there and I was kind of nervous, and Chavo Guerrero came up to me, and he just kind of pat me on the back and said, he goes, "You've done this a million times," he goes, "You're going to be fine." And then after that, it was just like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I went out there and I did my thing, and everything was fine, but it meant so much for Chavo to come up and say that to me, because I think he really understood what I was going through.
Yeah. Did you feel in the back of your head that it was going to take a while for the office to gain confidence in you again?
Oh, without a doubt. I knew that I was just going to, be under a microscope or just be, not tested, but just, kept at a certain level. And I was fine with that. I was willing to earn, whatever it was that I was to receive. And, I just, shrugged it out. And I wasn't booked on house shows for a long time. I was just doing TVs, which was probably better for me because it was less of a travel schedule. And at the time, I'd moved to Phoenix, Arizona. So I was just relaxing there and just going to TVs. And then things started to pick up, and I started doing a bit more TVs and a bit more house shows and pay-per-views, and the schedule got heavier and heavier. And I was just kind of giving more and more as time went on. And I feel like I kind of attempted to prove myself.
It seemed like you started to get a good push again when you were teaming with Duggan.
Mm-hmm.
How did that whole come about? That seemed to kind of come out of nowhere.
I don't know. I don't know if it started because the Cyber Sunday when it was Kamala, Snuka, and Hacksaw, or if they just kind of had two guys that kind of get good crowd reaction. They put us together, but it was just just one thing that Hacksaw and I got put together, and it was Hacksaw kind of sat me down one day, and it was really nice for him to say this, that Hacksaw is a veteran wrestler, for me to say it in one way. And when we would wrestle someone who had to do a move that was a bit more dangerous, I was usually the one that would offer to take it because Hacksaw was the veteran. And he sat me down one day and he said, you really understand what's going on, and you're willing to take most of it for the team. He goes, when I was breaking in, he goes, nobody would have done that. They'd have made, let Hacksaw, let Duggan take it. And he and I became pretty good friends, and we would cut up and joke, and he's a funny guy.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed teaming with Hacksaw. It was a good time.
Yeah. What was your memory of the match that you had yourself with the McMahons? You wrestled Shane and Vince, was it?
Yeah. It was just. It's when the Spirit Squad was teaming with Vince, and then they were doing that thing with DX, and they poured the stuff on the McMahons and Spirit Squad, and they whatever, and then they were trying to. Vince was trying to get back at DX, and he was going to drop the fucking Wile E. Coyote net on top of him. And I remember it was like, move over here, no, over here. And finally, they dropped a horrible net. But the match started because we were backstage. It was me, Tori, and I think Schnitzky. We were watching what happened the week before when Vince and Shane and the Spirit Squad had gotten whatever paint or whatnot dumped all over him, and he said, "You think that's funny? Well, we're going to wrestle you tonight." And then I went to his office, later on the show, and knocked on his door, and I'm sorry. And that's when him and Shane beat the shit out of me. And that's when they poured the green paint all over me. So that was done about midway through the show, and then we wrestled in the last match. So I had green paint dumped all over me, all over my jacket, my short, all over my boots. And I still had an hour to wait to wrestle, so I'm sitting there backstage all by myself. The paint had started to dry in my hair. That's when I still had the long hair. Yeah. And it was really, I was freezing cold because it's wet, cold paint all over me. My boots are stained, my jacket's stained. Then I had to go out there and wrestle a match. And long story short, roll Vince up 1, 2, 3. But I came back and I probably didn't shower for 45 minutes trying to get this stuff out of my hair. And no joke, I went to get my hair trimmed up a little bit like the week after that. And the lady's like, "What the hell happened to your hair?" It was like 3 months for me to get all that green out of my hair. It would not come out. My boots, I still wear the same boots, and they're they're still green splatter all over them. The jacket I have at home just stained, and it was the longest time. But it was just something that the people remember. Every time people see my boots, that's when Vince and Shane dumped that paint all over you. Yeah, Sioux City, Iowa, all over my head.
Huh. Was it hard for you? When you came in, you had such a big push in wrestling Triple H. Was it hard for you to not be able to get back to that spot for whatever reason? Mentally, was it hard?
No, not at all. Because it was just. Another match. I mean, some matches are bigger than others, yes, and I can't just say it's another match, but, when I came in and Eugene got pushed to that level, it was like the fans liked it, the fans liked it, the fans liked it, and then all of a sudden he's toe to toe with Triple H. No, he's not that good. The fans didn't want it.
Yeah.
You know, they wanted Triple H and Benoit or Triple H and somebody at that level, and me to just be in between. You know, it's like you know, it's like Randy Savage and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat with George Animal Steel kind of sprinkled in there.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't need to be the guy in that match. I just needed to be somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And the fans really just didn't accept it. They just kind of like turned their nose up at it. So then after that, you know, I was paired with Regal, and that really fit me well. I really needed to be paired with someone that I could play off of and whatnot. But as far as the mental aspect, no, it was, you know, I was just living the dream. You know, I just enjoy coming to work every day.
Yeah. A guy that you knew real well, who's also, you know, has some issues in and outside the ring, Randy Orton. Seems like now he's finally, you know, starting to get that run with the belt. You know, is he a guy, do you think that, you know, can make it over the long haul? Or do you think he's a guy that just, for whatever reason, you know, kind of self-destructs?
No, I mean, Orton, I was the first one to really talk to Orton when he came to OVW, and for some reason he kind of, you know, he and I kind of connected because of that. And it was funny because I remember like the first house show that we did, it was like outdoor at this track, you know, and all the fans, like, you know, in a high school track, they're on the one side, and we're in like this tent, there's the ring, and he's getting, you know, he's a little nervous, he's getting prepared to walk out, and he goes a step, I kicked his back foot, he tripped and almost fell and come out like this, you know, and just, he always reminded me of that, because I mean, I've seen him, you know, just be angry and just be mean, not necessarily to people, but just mean to himself. And I was always wanting to fuck with him and rib him, and just he and I have a real good relationship. And he has personal issues, I'm sure, like everybody does. But something in him just switched one day. I remember he would confide in me a lot, and he just, I've seen, he has so much natural ability. And I remember just from the first time I watched him wrestle, just he had maybe 6 matches and a handful of training sessions, and he's out there and he just had it. You know, and watching Cowboy Bob Orton and tapes of his grandfather wrestle, he just has it. And to watch him, you know, when he had the first run where he beat Benoit for the World Heavyweight Championship, just so much ability. And then I don't know what it was that made him so angry, but he just kind of. But at some point he just changed, and he knew that, you know, there was a better life for him, and there was so much more for him. And once he changed, and you know. He's become, you know, he's lived up to the potential that everybody thought he would live up to. And, you know, I pray to God he stays on this track, because he's a franchise player as far as WWE is concerned, and he's a very good friend of mine.
Cool. Were there ever any talks, or did you ever have any ideas of taking Eugene in a different direction, maybe going heel? I know there were some people that some of the newsletters were speculating that, well, maybe he's going to pull a deal where he wasn't, you know, autistic, so to speak, all along, and he was just pulling a ruse and turn heel. Were there ever any ideas like proposed like that?
To correct you, Eugene wasn't autistic. Eugene
right, that's why I put in quotation marks, but the camera
Eugene
can't see
special.
that. Right.
But to separate Eugene and Nick Dinsmore, I just would have become another wrestler.
Yeah.
There wouldn't have been anything, you know, that set me apart from everybody else. I just would have been a guy in boots and tights, which, you know, I wrestled as Nick Dinsmore for 8 years before I started Eugene, and what the hell did that give me? You know, I didn't pay the bills, so I didn't want to do that. Now, as far as turning heel, we attempted it, whatever. It was attempted at one point when I was tagged with Hacksaw, and I turned on him, and it was about 4 weeks worth of TV. And the fans just didn't buy it. I mean, I would go out to house shows and they'd be like, "Oh, it's Eugene, but he's been acting mean, but we're happy to see him." And well, he doesn't. You know, people didn't buy it. They didn't want to see it. You know, Arn Anderson kept saying, "You know, it's not. It's like trying to make Ronald McDonald a vicious villain. It's just people don't want to see it. You know, it's Ronald McDonald. It's Eugene. You know, they want to be happy. You know, and I was in a role. I was in a good role where I could go out, I could get a reaction, I could wrestle anybody, win, lose, or draw. I was going to get cheered at the end.
Yeah.
You know, and that was it. So I was at a point where I could elevate mid to, you know, undercard to mid-card heels and elevate these guys and not hurt myself no matter what the outcome was, and, you know, and still get a reaction. I mean, It's a character I feel could go on for 5, 10, 15 years.
Definitely.
Just, like Doink the Clown. It's no different. Doink the Clown comes out, oh, it's Doink the Clown,
Definitely.
Does a little bit, and then, it doesn't matter what the outcome is.
I could see that character like popping up 40 years from now, one of those gimmick battle royals at WrestleMania or something,
God, I hope I'm still wrestling.
Did you actively pitch ideas yourself, or did you kind of just roll with the punches?
I pitched a lot of stuff, but I don't know if people, none of it was ever really used. I mean, most of it, they kind of had an idea of where they wanted to go. I mean, I would throw stuff out there, but it wasn't,
Yeah.
I just kind of, just played follow the leader, really, for the most part.
Was it hard to work with the great Khali?
Well, no, because he pretty much knocked the shit out of you and you took it, I mean, he can't speak English very well, and the matches we had just obviously were very short, but oh my God, he picked me up and give me that finish, and every time he gave it to me, my hands went numb, and my neck hurt, and it just knocked me just senseless. And I kept saying, why can't we just get him to the claw or this thing?
Yeah.
And they're, no, that people won't buy it. I said, his hands are huge, they'll buy it. Just have him do this. And then all of a sudden when he got elevated to work with the top guys, he's using this as a finish. So I was the one that got splattered on the damn thing. I mean, Cena took it a lot too, but that thing just, oh my God, it killed me. Carlito and I'd always joke, did he give you the pay-per-view finish or just the house show finish? Every time I took the pay-per-view finish, because my hands, oh God, he killed me. But working with him wasn't that hard. He just had to be ready to get slammed pretty good.
And, it seemed like, once again, you got right back into the thick of things when you were involved in the main angle this year at WrestleMania, for the most part, with, the Donald Trump, Vince McMahon deal. And how did that come about as far as getting you involved?
I remember watching it backstage with Cena, and, do the whole build-up, and Trump's dropping the dollar bills, and they're going to have a match for the hair, and then the next week they're talking about hair. And thinking back to every angle that's involved, someone getting their head shaved, I'm thinking, that would shave somebody's head beforehand, just to show the people, kind of what's going to happen, like you do with any angle.
Yeah.
You got a strap match, you're going to beat somebody that has nothing to do with the angle with the strap, just to show them what they're getting. And I'm thinking, you want to shave somebody's head that's got a lot of sympathy. I'm thinking, who's got the most sympathy? Well, Shawn Michaels has the most sympathy. I don't think they're going to shave his head. Who has the second? Oh, fuck. And then I just knew it was coming. And I remember like one of the writer's assistants called me one day. Yeah, we thought maybe, would it be okay? We just thought about the idea, possibly, shake your head, what do you think about that, And I was like, yeah, fine, well, whatever, I didn't care, I was a team player, I was a trooper, and just going into it, it was just another day. But I remember, Maga strapped me into that thing so hard, and Coach is out there, and Armando's out there, and they're shaving my head, and then coming back, and they took the big razor to it. I'd had that hair for so long, I just started growing it because when I was in OVW, they kept saying, we need you to have a new look, just change up your look, see what you got. And I just, finally one day I just gave up and said, I'm just going to let it grow. And it just, it got pretty long. And the next thing I know, I've got it all in a bag, a little Kroger bag right here. I was like, well, there's my hair. I enjoyed being a part of it. It was, I remember at WrestleMania, Donald Trump comes up, oh, you look good, About want to go, hey, can I have a job?
Yeah. How was Trump to work with during that angle, at least from what you saw?
I really don't consider myself a part of that angle. I was like, a little spice that was led up to it. But I spoke to him a few times, and he was nice. One of the times he was on TV, I remember when I wrestled Khali. He came up, shook my hand. I think he, for some reason, I don't remember what the deal was, but he was watching to see, who was going to represent him. I don't remember the whole gist of it, but he goes, I liked your match, it was good. And then actually at WrestleMania, he goes, oh, you look good, I took your hair off. And just, he was real nice. He had his little security with him everywhere, and he had, didn't he have Miss America with him there?
Yeah.
WrestleMania?
Yeah.
Had the Miss America with him, and he was a super nice guy.
Cool. When you went to SmackDown, did you know you were going, or did they kind of just throw it on you?
About I think it posted online at 2:30, 3 o'clock. I knew about 1 o'clock in the
Oh,
afternoon.
okay.
So I mean, I knew, but it was that day.
Okay.
So.
Because we've talked to guys before where they say they didn't even know until.
Yeah, a lot of guys didn't know. It just so happened that we landed somewhere maybe north of South Carolina. I can't really remember. And one of the office members was there to take Cena to an autograph session or a personal appearance or something. And he just happened to, because I think I was the only one that was on the road that got switched. So I did like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday house shows with Raw. I got drafted that Sunday. I went to SmackDown for the Monday house show and then TV. Excuse me. So like they had to coordinate my travel and stuff like that. So that's the reason I knew.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Now, again, sad news. Where were you when you heard about the whole Chris Benoit situation?
I remember we did the pay-per-view. We did the house show and he wasn't there. He called and said his family emergency. We did the pay-per-view and I remember the guys that knew him well, like Dean Malenko was like, I'm really starting to get worried. He's not responding to anybody's calls and Chavo and Scotty Armstrong. And then we were all at Raw. I think it was a Super Show, I believe. And Vince just sat everybody down and said, him and his wife and his son were found dead. And they did the show for him that night. And everybody knows the outcome of that.
Yeah. How hard did you personally take it?
It was. We all took it rough. I took it rough. I mean, I looked up to Chris. I mean, I asked him. Every time I saw him, he always asked me how my dad was doing, and just I asked him. Daniel I become friends with Daniel, and he always asked, "How's Eugene doing?" I remember he had taken a picture, a video of Daniel. I think they were eating somewhere, and he's, "Hi Eugene," and then Chris sent it to me, and just it was the outcome of that incident was not the Chris Benoit that I knew.
Yeah. Do you think the media coverage of everything was fair or unfair?
I don't know, because I mean they took an incident and they publicized it, and if I didn't know someone and I heard that, I would probably think what the media thought too. But from my side, from people that did know him and know how caring he was and the type of guy that he was, and when I saw him as a father, he was a tremendous father, and just the Chris Benoit that I knew, that and everybody said it, that's not the person that was involved in the outcome of that situation.
Now, it seems, ever since then that the wellness policy has come under scrutiny, and talking about Congress getting involved and all kinds of things. Do you think that WWE needs a stronger policy, or do you think that what they have intact is somebody that, was there and under it?
I mean, it's a legitimate, it's a stiff policy. I mean, from what we've been told, it's the same type policy that it's in the NFL, it's in Major League Baseball, and it's not only a drug testing policy, but it's a cardiovascular policy. I mean, twice a year we'd have to get on the treadmill and run with all the things hooked up to us, and they'd sit us down and take the what's the thing that they put on women when they have the
I know, it's the ultrasound.
The ultrasound of our heart to see if there's any malfunctions, and then like MVP, he had that little just a little minor malfunction, and they went in and corrected that. So I mean, it has great benefits, and it keeps people healthy, and it keeps them on a right track, because I think we're getting a lot of I don't want to say this. We're getting a lot of backlash from the way that the wrestlers lived in the 80s. And everybody, from what I understand, not only wrestling, but pro football, Hollywood, everybody lived hard in the 80s and lived fast. And now those people are paying the price for it. And when they see, okay, a wrestler passes away, they look at us and say, well, what are you doing? Well, it's not the same crowd. It's not the same time. It's not the same group of guys. I mean, literally, from what I've heard, the wrestlers of the past would go out every night. I mean, these guys were going 17, 20 days on, 2 days at home, 20 days on, 2 days at home. We were going 4 days on, 3 days at home. We might have a long stretch if we went overseas, but, everybody's working out in the mornings. I mean, a lot of guys will go back and play PSP, in the hotel at night.
Yeah.
And it's not the same lifestyle as it was. but I think a lot of guys are having to pay the price for the sins of the fathers before us, So
Yeah. When you were over to SmackDown, one of the first things that happened was, again, you got squashed by Khali. Did you think it was a bad sign that as soon as you got over there that, you're getting squashed by Khali?
No, because it's like I said before, Eugene was a character that, regardless of the outcome, people are going to cheer. I mean, let's hope so. It's just win, lose, or draw. I was getting a good reaction, and we needed to build Khali, to have him face Batista. I mean, I was a team player. I was a trooper. I understood that it wasn't what am I getting out of this? It's what is a company? What are we all?
So it's almost a compliment to you as being a good utility player.
Yeah, I mean, I could go out there and work with anybody, regardless of their experience, regardless of their skill level, and get something out of them. Have a good match with them. Get them, after our match, get them a step better. After they left me, I don't know, but I felt like I could go out there and he's going to make his shit look good because he's going to knock the shit out of you, and it's going to be a short match. But Khali, I get him, in to where he needs to be with Batista. So it didn't bother me in the least to go in and lose a match.
You went back to OVW. You're there now doing some camps. How's OVW changed now as compared to when you were there in the past?
It's changed. I'm not going to say for better, for worse. It's just a different crowd. When I was there, like I spoke of before, it was Jim Cornette was the matchmaker, Danny Davis was the trainer, Rip Rogers was also a trainer. Now Al Snow is the head trainer with Robert Gibson as a trainer, and Al, Robert, and Danny Davis all kind of collaborate on matchmaking. And Danny has gotten away from training and more into television production, and I'm really not at the practices and at the TVs enough to really be able to get a sense of who the guys are. The times that I was there, I was just there briefly. I am there. I teach a beginners class on Mondays and Tuesdays for anyone who wants to join up. But I'm really not at OVW enough. But I don't know, and I could be wrong. I don't think the camaraderie is there like it was before. And I don't know if it's because a group of us was there for so long, and then when like it was myself, Conway, Doug Basham, Damage, at the and then someone else would come in and Cornette would be like, take Rico and teach him. So we would all take Rico and we'd all watch him and do this, don't do this now. Now I don't think they have guys with 4, 5, 6 years experience that can take someone else and teach them. You have a lot of young guys that are trying to assume the role of a leader, which is great, but if you don't have that experience, it's very tough to do that. So it's just kind of a different dynamic down there now where the guys are being forced to learn and just trying to scramble and get knowledge wherever they can, and now is trying to have to teach all these guys at once when before Rip Rogers is a tremendous teacher. I personally think he's the best wrestling teacher that I know in the world, in my opinion. But he also had guys under him that he could say, okay, Doug, you take these 4 guys. Conway, you take these 4 guys. Damage, you take these 4 guys. Nick, you take these 4 guys. And then he could just kind of oversee it, just kind of like a professor and a whatever how it's called, an intermediate professor or a student teacher or whatnot,
Yeah.
And I just don't think they have that luxury now.
Now, it kind of surprised everybody when you wrestled Mark Henry, and the next day everybody read online that you were gone from the WWE. I'm sure it surprised you too.
No, I got the call early in the day. The gist of it was I was going to I was taking pain medicine to manage the pain. I was going to a pain management specialist, and I was also consulting WWE's Dr. Rios to kind of guide me on the usage of pain medicine. I had run out, and someone had some that I thought was the same as my prescription. Come to find out it wasn't, and then when I took the drug test, it showed up. I had no prescription for it, and with my past record, they had no choice but to release me, and it was just kind of I felt screwed because, well, I take that back. I didn't feel screwed. I screwed myself, but I felt disappointed in myself that I would make a mistake like that. And I'll say right now, I'll take full responsibility for making the mistake. And it was up to me to know exactly what I was intaking into my body. I should have been smarter. But I remember it. I took three pills. I took 2 on a Saturday, 1 on a Sunday morning, and I thought it was the same prescription I had, and come to find out it wasn't, and it cost me my job.
Wow. Do you was it for your knee? Were you still managing?
Yeah. I've had 4 knee surgeries total, and I've got I'm not sure what it's called. I've got a disc in my back, the L5 disc. That's kind of deteriorating. It doesn't bother me all the time, but every now and then it'll lock up, and then my legs will get tight. And that's like I said, I was consulting a pain management specialist, and it's just I was trying the best I could to manage it, but I wrestled for 11 years and getting beat up by every big guy that's in the business now. It just takes a toll on my body.
Do you think the door's open sometime for you to go back down the line?
I don't feel like I burned a bridge. I mean, I don't feel like I left on the best terms, but I don't feel like I burned a bridge or left on horrible terms. When things die down, and if I can when I prove myself and show that I really want to be back, I think eventually I could if it's there.
Yeah. Do you have any plans to go to TNA or talk to anybody there or anything?
Not just yet. I mean, I'm not dismissing it, but I haven't spoke to anyone yet, so it's kind of I hope to. It'd be great. I think it'd be a great opportunity. I mean, like I said before, everything in my career has just been opportunity on top of opportunity, and just never expecting something. Never feel like I have to be given something. Just it just happens. So if that's what's in store for me, possibly Ring of Honor, anything. Hopefully going to Japan. I still contacted Jerry, who's working for Hustle in Japan. I'd really like to work for them. So I'm just sitting back now and just living a little more relaxed life, and just waiting to see what's next.
Well, as somebody, you've had your struggles, you've seen your friends. What are your thoughts on, this whole issue, especially nowadays with drugs and professional wrestling? Do you think it's overblown? Do you think, the media's been unfair about it?
The media has to have something to report about. They're 1 week they're going to report about wrestling and how the drugs and corruptness, and then the next week it's going to be about Britney Spears and what she does. So it's it's just they have to have something to write about. And if they want to scrutinize wrestling that much, then I think they should. And if people are living a life or living a way that is harmful to them, then that's what the wellness policy is there for. Media is gonna scrutinize people far more than they really know. I mean, just like I said, Britney Spears. I mean, they're on her talking about she's a bad mother and she doesn't want her kids. But I don't know Britney Spears. Nobody knows. Very few people know exactly what she's really like. But the media is going to portray, everybody in the light that they want to be portrayed in, just to, for ratings and to sell magazines. So if they want to put wrestling on the cover of something, on the headline of a show, just to produce ratings or sell magazine copies, that's what they're going to do.
Yeah. Is there anybody that you didn't get a chance to wrestle in the WWE that you wished you did?
Like I said, probably Eddie Guerrero's was probably the one that I wish I would have wrestled. I would have liked to have wrestled against William Regal. We tagged for the longest time, and we tried to. We wanted to do a thing where when Bischoff was trying to get me out, said, well, you have to wrestle your best friend William Regal, or I'm going to fire you. And then a whole thing where and then he tells Regal, I want you to go in and hurt him, and then Regal's got he's friends with me, but he's kind of contemplating, well, should I do it? And me just not one, but then having a little fun and tickle him and stick my thumb in his ass, and but I wish I could have had a match with him. So.
What's the biggest piece of advice you can give somebody, or that you do give to your students and beginners classes for somebody getting into business?
Graduate college first.
Yeah. Speaking of your students or people that you've seen in OVW, is there any names that you can think of off the top of your head that maybe we should look out for?
When I was wrestling down in OVW last, I wrestled a guy by the name of Mike Cruel.
Oh yeah, he's from around this area.
Yeah, and he's very, very good. He he was doing like not an all-American thing, but I'm not sure exactly what his gimmick was, but he'd have like the red, white, and blue tights, and he had a valet with him. Her name was Roca, and she had the red, white, and blue bikini. But then he had two like two Mexican boys that were with him that were like lowrider like looking guys, and then two Iraqi like soldier looking guys that were with him, and then all four and then another guy that he called himself the Belgian Waffler.
Yeah.
I thought that was the funniest thing. But Mike Krul and the girl, I think they're Roca are under contract, and all five of the other guys are all in Derby City Wrestling, which Danny Davis initially started Ohio Valley Wrestling and had a TV show, and then there got to be so many developmental talents that were used on Ohio Valley Wrestling that the office really didn't want non-contract talent to be on the TV show to take away from the learning experience from the contract guys. So what Danny did is he went and started a whole nother television show. It's called Derby City Wrestling. I think it's like derbycity.com or derbycitywrestling.com. But basically what this is OVW is a feeder system for WWE. Derby City Wrestling is a feeder system for OVW. And like a step before that... Oh, okay. A step before Derby City Wrestling is the class that I now teach, the beginner's class. If anybody, there's guys, I just had a guy move from I think Cleveland to Louisville, Kentucky, and he joined the beginner's class in hopes that someday he will get a chance to be trained by Rip Rogers in the Derby City Wrestling. Then they learn how to do TV there, and I think that's a great tool because that's something that OVW provides, that now Derby City provides. That a lot of guys on the independent scene don't know how to do is how to do TV matches as well as house show matches. And the feeder system progresses, and I think Danny and Rip have a great system there, and I just feel lucky to be a part of it.
What do you do now that you have a lot more free time than you did before?
You know what? You might think I have more free time, but when I got released, I kind of sat around for a week and kind of weighed my options, and I contacted Rip Rogers, and what do? And he kind of contacted some other people, and they kind of suggested that I put out I'm not very internet savvy, put out a statement online saying I'm now available for booking. So I found some people that I could send that out to, Meltzer and then Brian Alvarez. I sent that out, and in one day, 24 hours, I had 70 email booking requests.
Wow.
So, I mean, I'm still getting booking requests, and I'm constantly all day, trying to call people back and coordinate. And I've got a calendar and writing down, got to be here, and do this, and try my best to come up with merchandise and just get myself booked, and along with training the class on Monday and Tuesday for the beginner's class at OVW. I started writing a column online for WrestleZone.com, and a question and answer segment on there too. So, an hour a day I'll spend answering questions. Hour a week I spend writing the column. 3 to 4 hours Monday and Tuesday each day. I train, plus going to the gym, and I enjoy my time at home, but it's not. It's not as laid back as it might seem. It's not as hectic as being on the road full time, but it's still busy.
Wow. In closing, we always like to ask our interviewees best rib or road story that you can share with us, or a good one at least.
This is bad. David Flair was in OVW. John Cena was in OVW. I smartened up Cena. I'm sitting there with David Flair. I said, man, Cena's sister, man, she can play piano really well. She plays piano really well. And David, hey, John, I heard your sister plays piano really well. Cena fucking gets mad, throws something across the room. My sister doesn't have any arms, man. What the fuck you say that for? And walks out. And David totally I mean, he didn't know what to say. And Cena didn't even have a sister. I'm just trying not to lose it in the back. And it was that's probably the meanest thing that I've done, but I mean, there's been plenty of ribs, but I think I'm going to save that if I ever write a book, and have to wait for that one.
Awesome. And in closing, is there anything you want to say to your fans that have about this interview?
Shit, buy this interview. Just keep an eye out for me. I have a MySpace page, the letter U, Gene, Dinsmore, Dinsmore. On the MySpace, like I said, I'm not too internet savvy. I have the, as of for right now, the WrestleZone column, and the Eugene Dinsmore MySpace, and hopefully I'll see everyone. I don't know. Yay.
TitleMatchNetwork.com